Chapter 20. This book has been signed. Thank you for your support. Just as Sumo was lamenting about accidentally tearing one of her sleeves, Bai Lai entered the cave abode. Little Su, Bai Lai and Sumo became more familiar with each other, so the way they addressed each other became more casual. Bai Lai called Sumo Little Su, while Sumo directly called Bai Lai by his name, or Old Bai. The two of them hit it off well and were good friends despite the difference in age. You're awake. Bai Lai seemed to have just finished cleaning the cave abode, as there were still some water stains on his body that had yet to dry. I'm awake. It was a good night's sleep. Sumo stretched lazily. A night's sleep? Bai Lai rolled his eyes. You've slept for 3 days and 3 nights, and you call that a night's sleep? If you didn't wake up, I would have gone to call for help. I thought you were dead drunk. 3 days and 3 nights? Sumo was stunned. No way. What kind of wine did you make me drink? What wine? It's good wine. Could it be poison wine? Bai Lai looked at Sumo with disdain. Your alcohol tolerance is too low. I'm fine, but you slept for 3 days. Sigh. Sumo was really embarrassed. However, he thought that it wasn't just the wine that caused him to sleep for 3 days. The golden arowana soup that had been enhanced by the copper bowl contained too much spiritual chi for him to absorb and digest. Since you're awake, let's go. Let's go fishing together. We agreed on that day. Bai Lai patted the storage bag on his waist and chuckled. I brought the tools to catch fish. Let's see if you're awake. The golden arowana meat was delicious, and most importantly, it could improve one's cultivation. Naturally, Sumo was tempted. All right, let's go. One was old and the other was young. One was sloppy, while the other was in rags. The two of them left the cave abode and went straight to the immortal river not far from the mountain gate. In fact, that immortal river was actually a tributary of a large river. It was said that their mother river was called Clean Water. The people on 5 wheels didn't know where the purified water came from. They only knew that it came from the God River. However, Sumo had heard from Bai Lai that the pure water river was extremely vast and meandered for tens of thousands of miles, passing through the entire White Bone continent and flowing to other continents. Sumo asked about the other continents, but Bai Lai didn't know. In short, the immortal river at the entrance of 5 wheels had an extraordinary origin. Because it traversed the White Bone Ridge, the 5 wheels were used to calling it the White Bone River or the Immortal River. The golden arowana fish would only pass through the White Bone Ridge during this time of the year. However, this section of the mountain gate was downstream of the White Bone River. Some of the rare treasures in the river had already been seized by the 5 wheels intersect disciples upstream. Low-grade spiritual food, like the golden arowana fish, was of little value to the intersect disciples of 5 wheels. That was why an old cultivator like Bai Lai could get a few to eat downstream. When they reached the river, Bai Lai took out a special fishing net from his storage bag. The fishing net was 4 feet tall and 10 feet wide. There were 7 or 8 cylindrical nets on it. The inside of the cylindrical net was supported by purple bamboo. The entrance was wide on the outside and narrow on the inside. This way, the golden arowana fish would not be able to escape once it entered. The fishing net didn't seem to be made of ordinary silk. It glowed faintly with a white light. It didn't look ordinary. Bai Lai, you have such a good thing. Sumo asked curiously. Hee. 10 years ago, an intersect disciple passed by and saw me struggling in the river. I couldn't get a single fish after a long time, so he gave it to me out of pity, Bai Lai said. No wonder. Sumo smiled and didn't ask any more questions. With this net, catching 2 golden arowana fish wouldn't be difficult. The flow of the immortal river around the mountain gate was slow. The narrowest part was only 10 feet wide. It was perfect for setting up the net. Sumo helped Bai Lai. The two of them set up the net at the most suitable place. Based on Bai Lai's experience, they only needed to wait quietly and not make any noise. This was because the golden arowana fish had always been sly. Once there was any movement, they would swim upstream and not appear for 3 to 5 days. Therefore, with this fishing net, it was all about patience and luck. When the two of them came out, it wasn't even noon yet. After 6 hours, the sun had already set. They still didn't see a single golden arowana fish. Bai Lai was experienced and wasn't anxious at all. In the end, he slept soundly on a green rock by the riverbank. Sumo was quite interested in the beginning. She stared at the water without moving. However, when he saw that Bai Lai had already fallen asleep, he felt a little dispirited. The sun set, but Bai Lai didn't wake up. Sumo sat by the riverside and cultivated breathing and refining his chi. At the same time, Sumo consciously spread out his divine sense. He could sense even the slightest movement within a radius of 10 feet. The second level of the chi refinement realm was indeed different. The sun set and the moon rose. The sky was filled with stars. The mountain guarding array of the 5 wheels made the night even more mysterious. The river of white bones was sparkling. Above the 5 wheels mountain range, the silver light was faint. Such a beautiful scene would be wonderful if it were a scholar or a beautiful woman. Unfortunately, there were only one old man and one young man here. One was lying on his back, looking sloppy. He was snoring loudly and drooling. The other was sitting cross-legged. His clothes were ragged. He closed his eyes and breathed seriously. The 2 fishermen looked a little funny. Just like that, they waited until midnight. However, where were the golden arowana fish? There wasn't even a trace of the golden arowana fish. At this moment, Bai Lai turned over and actually woke up. He looked up at the moon and couldn't help but sigh. Why is my luck so bad today? Could it be that the golden dragon moon period has passed? But there should still be 7 or 8 days left. Why is there not a single fish after waiting for so long? Sigh. Little Sue, it seems that you have no affinity with fish. Bai Lai used the moonlight and the light from the array to look at the river. The water was calm. However, at this moment, Bai Lai suddenly saw a large ball of golden light shining on the surface of the water not far away. It was about 2 feet wide and seemed to be walking on the water. What's that? Bai Lai was shocked. He looked at the ball of golden light again. It was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, the golden light rushed to where Bai Lai and Sumo were. At this moment, Bai Lai finally saw that it was a golden arowana fish with golden scales and blood-red eyes. Its whiskers were 3 feet long. Golden arowana, fish king. Bai Lai was shocked and couldn't help but shout. Little Sue, golden arowana fish king. Actually, Sumo had already woken up without him shouting. Cultivating by the Whitebone River was not the same as cultivating in the cave abode. Sumo had always been on high alert. When Bai Lai woke up, Sumo already knew. Just now, Sumo also saw the ball of golden light. Golden arowana, fish king. That golden arowana fish was more than 3 feet long. It didn't swim in the water at all. Instead, it seemed to be using the water to escape. Little Sue, catch it. That's a high-grade spirit food. Bai Lai shouted at the top of his lungs. However, he had no ability at all. He saw the golden arowana fish coming over. He could only throw the broken hook in his hand. Plop! Unfortunately, Bai Lai's strength was too weak. The hook didn't even hit the golden arowana fish. Instead, it was knocked into the river by the waves of the golden arowana fish. At this moment, Sumo didn't have much time to think. He leaped up and swung the broken bamboo stick at the golden arowana fish king. Last time, when Sumo used the bamboo stick to hit Shindong, she didn't have much spiritual energy in her body. However, Sumo's cultivation was already close to the peak of the 2nd stage of chi refinement. Sumo's usage of spiritual energy had already reached another level. He leaped up and actually reached a height of 2 feet. Looking again, the bamboo stick suddenly gave off a green light that was more than 10 feet long. The golden arowana fish had to use the water to escape. At this moment, it happened to reach the narrowest part. Boom, pa! Chapter 21. This time, Sumo was a bit impulsive. A normal golden arowana was indeed a low-tier spirit food, but this one was the best among intermediate-tier spirit foods. It was also very powerful in the water. A golden arowana in the water was comparable to a cultivator of the 3rd or 4th rank of chi refinement. Pow! Boom! Sumo's bamboo pole landed solidly on the golden arowana. The golden arowana suddenly straightened its body and quickly fell. But the moment it touched the water, it fiercely slapped against the water like a golden dragon. Hua! Sumo's cultivation was limited. In a hurry to escape, the golden arowana king slammed into Sumo. At this time, Sumo was still floating in the air. Bang! Pow! The golden arowana king's tail landed solidly on Sumo's body. Sumo couldn't dodge it all. She had to endure it even if she didn't want to. Although the golden arowana king was at the end of its rope, and this was an instinctive attack, it definitely had the power of a third-rank chi refinement cultivator. Bang! On the shore, Balai closed his eyes in fright. It's over for little Suzy. But when Balai opened his eyes again, he saw that Sumo was in the immortal river. Although her face was a bit pale, she wasn't knocked away by the golden arowana king. The golden arowana king was also in the water and couldn't fly. Little Suzy, Balai yelled from the shore. He didn't expect Sumo to have this kind of ability at all. A second-rank chi refinement cultivator might not be a common existence in the eyes of other cultivators, but to Balai, it was already very high. Under the moonlight, the golden arowana king's light scattered, making Sumo's ragged clothes seem to glow with a golden light. At this time, Sumo's blood was boiling. He couldn't even speak. That attack from the golden arowana king was the strongest attack Sumo had ever faced. If his bones weren't tough, he would have been beaten to death already. Even so, he still felt fear, thinking that he was too impulsive just now. Actually, Sumo had only cultivated for a short period of time. Otherwise, he could have easily split the golden arowana fish king into two with his bamboo pole. How had he given the strength to struggle and fight back? Unfortunately, he was only in the second rank of chi refining. At this moment, the golden arowana flopped in the water and was caught by Balai's net. On the surface, the net was only suitable for catching ordinary golden arowanas. However, he didn't know what kind of special net it was, but as soon as the golden arowana king crashed into it, it glowed with white light. In an instant, the white light was as dense as silk, crisscrossing and locking the golden arowana fish king in place. Got him! Balai yelled. Little Sue, are you okay? He couldn't believe that he and Sumo had caught the goldfish king. That wasn't something an ordinary golden arowana could compare to. It was like the difference between a carp and a dragon. I'm fine. Sumo gritted her teeth and replied. Then she took a long time to let her blood flow smoothly. He felt lucky. At the same time, he had a better understanding of his tough bones. Thinking back to the day when senior brother Lee, whom Chun Dong had invited to help him, punched him, it wouldn't have been a big deal. That was because it definitely wasn't as powerful as a golden arowana fish king's tail. It seemed that he could take a full blow from a cultivator in the third rank of chi refining. Just now, he had leaped 10 feet into the air and hit the golden arowana fish king. It was all like a dream. The little beggar in the past might have been so powerful. At this moment, the green light on Sumo's bamboo pole quietly faded. However, both Balai and Sumo were in a daze. The golden arowana fish king was trapped in the water and couldn't move anymore. But how were they going to bring such a big fish back? How were they going to eat it? They were going to stew it or roast it. Wouldn't it be a waste to drink soup? Also, how big would the pot be? The pot was indeed a problem. He didn't have to worry about the knife, though. Balai and Sumo looked at each other. A few hilarious thoughts flashed through their minds at the same time. They also knew what each other was thinking. However, they didn't feel embarrassed. Instead, they felt relieved that they weren't alone. They nodded at each other in tacit agreement. Luckily, it was just the two of them. If the cultivators from Five Wheels knew what they were thinking, they would probably jump up and scold them. What a waste of resources. Is the golden arowana, fish king, used to stew soup? Huh, why don't you use silk to wipe your ass? Why don't you use immortal pills as jelly beans? Luckily, no one else knew what the two beggars were thinking. At this moment, a black light rushed over from upstream. It must be the cultivator from Five Wheels, because that person was rushing over on the wind. In an instant, that cultivator was in front of them. A female cultivator in a black dress. She was tall, had fair skin, and a stunning appearance. Senior Sister Mu. Sumo was stunned. No matter what, she didn't expect that person to be Mu Jinghong. This was Sumo's first time seeing Mu Jinghong since she joined Five Wheels. Stunning white bones for 3,000 years. These days, after hearing so many legends about Mu Jinghong, Sumo felt that Mu Jinghong was unreachable and cold. Mu Jinghong glanced at the golden arowana fish king trapped in the fishing net, and a strange look flashed across her eyes. One had to know that she had caught this golden arowana fish king for an entire day and night. However, the golden arowana fish king was very strong, sly, and suspicious. Mu Jinghong had chased it for tens of thousands of miles, but she hadn't succeeded. She urgently needed that golden arowana fish king to refine into an elixir. You guys caught it? Mu Jinghong's cold tone didn't change. That's right. Balai didn't know why, but he pointed at Sumo and said he was the one who whipped the golden arowana fish king into the water. However, it was all thanks to my fishing net. Hee. Balai was very pleased. Mu Jinghong frowned. He looked at the fishing net, then looked at Balai and said, "Isn't this my senior brother Lu's heaven mixing net? Why is it in your hands?" Mu Jinghong knew that without this net, he definitely wouldn't have been able to trap the golden arowana fish. Balai was stunned. Senior brother Lu? I don't know what senior brother Lu is. However, this net was given to me by an inner sect disciple 10 years ago. It came from clean source. Balai was a little anxious. He had seen how powerful the fishing net was, and he knew that it was something good. He was afraid that Mu Jinghong would snatch it. Oh, Mu Jinghong glanced at Balai coldly. Don't worry. Do you think I, Mu Jinghong, would snatch your fishing net? I'm just curious why a petty person like my senior brother Lu would give this precious fishing net to you. Balai couldn't help but feel awkward. Mu Jinghong looked deeply at Balai, then ignored him. Instead, he looked at Sumo. Senior sister Mu. Sumo bowed again. It's been a long time. Yes. Mu Jinghong nodded lightly. Actually, Sumo had never seen Mu Jinghong, but it wasn't that Mu Jinghong hadn't seen Sumo. However, Mu Jinghong didn't show any warmth or familiarity. At that moment, Sumo smiled bitterly in his heart. To be honest, he couldn't see through Mu Jinghong's thoughts. He had always thought that Mu Jinghong had an ulterior motive for bringing him up the mountain. However, sometimes he thought that Mu Jinghong might have brought him up the mountain out of momentary kindness. Perhaps he didn't have any ulterior motive. Why would a stunning female cultivator who was about to form her gold core and enter the ranks of the elders of the Five Wheels care about a little beggar like him? Chapter 22. Sumo, you've successfully nurtured your immortal roots? Mu Jinghong nodded, then carefully sized up Sumo. A look of confusion flashed across his eyes as he slowly asked, "You've really successfully nurtured your immortal roots. I didn't disappoint senior sister Mu for bringing me up the mountain that day." Sumo finally felt a little more confident. "I've indeed successfully nurtured my immortal roots." Sumo believed that although she did not have a clear immortal root, she had indeed successfully nurtured her immortal roots. Sumo was actually just stating the facts, but her words caused Balai, who was beside her, to almost jump up. At the same time, a look of surprise and coldness flashed across Mu Jinghong's eyes. "Little Su, you've successfully nurtured your immortal roots?" Balai exclaimed. "Really? Why didn't I know? You didn't tell me either." He had been on the mountain for 50 years, but Sumo seemed to be the first person to successfully nurture his immortal roots in 3 months. The most impressive person before him was Mu Jinghong, but he could not remember Mu Jinghong's achievements. Sumo was a little embarrassed. "It's just a small matter. What's there to say? There's still a long way to go on the path of cultivation. Successfully nurturing my immortal roots is not something to brag about." Balai gritted his teeth. He really wanted to go over and kick Sumo. Sumo's words were too pretentious. Or was it just a small matter? Not something to brag about? It was too infuriating. It was no wonder that Balai had not managed to nurture his immortal roots after spending 50 years on the Five Wheels. However, Sumo had actually spoken so casually about the matter of nurturing his immortal roots. This was too infuriating. When people compared themselves to others, they would really die a violent death. "Very good. You've been on the mountain for 3 whole months, right?" Mu Jinghong tried to calm himself down. Although he knew that Sumo cultivated day and night, he really did not expect Sumo to be so talented. Balai was shocked, but Mu Jinghong's heart was in turmoil. This was because when she concentrated her divine sense to examine Sumo, she couldn't see through Sumo's Dan-si immortal root at all. It was just a ball of mist, but the two halos in her Dan-si were very clear. Second, LV Qi refining. Mu Jinghong couldn't believe his eyes. Mu Jinghong was very familiar with the history of the five wheels. In less than 3 months, he had already reached the second stage of Qi training. If Mu Jinghong hadn't personally brought Sumo up the mountain, she would have suspected that Sumo had brought her skills up the mountain. Within 3 months, he had reached the second level of the Qi refining realm. Sumo was the first person in the history of five wheels in the past 30,000 years. Even Mu Jinghong, who was known as the breathtaking White Bones for 3,000 years, felt inferior to her. He was a monster among monsters. Silent Death Valley? Silent Death Valley. Mu Jinghong muttered in his mind. It seemed that Sumo was indeed not an ordinary person to be able to come out of Silent Death Valley. Sumo, do you still remember the 3-year promise? Mu Jinghong's thoughts did not show on his face at all. I wouldn't dare to forget, Sumo said solemnly. However, it's still out of my reach for the little beggar to enter the inner sect. Once I enter the inner sect, I will definitely serve Senior Sister Mu. Yes. Mu Jinghong's face was less cold. Is there any difficulty in cultivating in the cave abode at the mountain gate? Replying Senior Sister Mu, there's no difficulty, Sumo replied. At this moment, Bai Lai kept giving Sumo looks. Bai Lai's meaning was very clear. Mu Jinghong was a big tree. As long as Sumo held on to this tree, she would have a meteoric rise in the five wheels in the future. With a word from Mu Jinghong, Sumo could directly enter the inner sect. However, Sumo was not moved. Of course, Sumo saw Bai Lai's look. However, Sumo was not willing to make any requests in front of Mu Jinghong. Firstly, she was more or less on guard against Mu Jinghong. This was because Mu Jinghong knew that she came out of Silent Death Valley. Secondly, in front of Mu Jinghong, Sumo had a seemingly laughable self-esteem. Yes, Mu Jinghong nodded. Naturally, he saw everything. He rather admired Sumo's temperament. Immediately, Mu Jinghong flipped his hand, and a black jade slip appeared in his slender, jade-like palm. Sumo, I'll give this jade slip to you to protect yourself. With this jade slip, you can contact me at any time. If you have any difficulties in cultivation, feel free to tell me. You can even crush this jade slip at a crucial moment. I will definitely arrive at the five wheels immortal domain within 3 breaths of time. Mu Jinghong waved his hand, and the black jade slip directly fell into Sumo's hand. Sumo seemed to have seen that black jade slip somewhere before, but she could not recall where. Thank you, Senior Sister Mu. Sumo did not refuse. Instead, she was rather grateful. With this jade slip, she had an additional layer of protection. This would indeed be greatly beneficial to her cultivation. Out of habit, Sumo threw the jade slip into the tattered cloth bag. Mu Jinghong glanced at it and said, Sumo, is the storage bag of 5 wheels inferior to your tattered cloth bag? Don't forget, storage bags are not only used to store items. They are also used to warn us cultivators not to flaunt our treasures. As he spoke, Mu Jinghong swept a glance at Sumo's bamboo pole. Although he could not see the origin of Sumo's bamboo pole, he knew that a mere second-stage Qi refinement cultivator would definitely not be able to defeat the Goldfish King. Sumo's bamboo pole was definitely not an ordinary item. However, Mu Jinghong did not ask further. Cultivation was all about fate. Everyone's fate was different, and everyone had their own secrets. Mu Jinghong, for example, had many secrets. Yes. Thank you for your teachings, Senior Sister Mu. Sumo could hear the warning in Mu Jinghong's words. Of course, he understood the saying that a man's wealth would make him guilty. With a thought, Sumo's bamboo pole, tattered cloth bag, copper bowl, and jade slip were all placed into the storage bag. Does the white robe not fit on you? Mu Jinghong asked again. No, Sumo shook her head. Then why not? Sumo was born a beggar. Although this tattered robe looks unbearable, it constantly reminds me not to forget my origins and my bitter cultivation. If one day I can attain the great Tao, even a tattered robe is better than a luxurious one. Hiss! Bai Lai's teeth ached as he listened. Sour. This was the first time in his life that Bai Lai had heard someone describe sloppy, lazy, and dirty as righteous, calm, elegant, and disgusting. However, Sumo was speaking from the bottom of her heart. This was because when he was looked down upon by others because of his beggar appearance, Sumo had secretly made up her mind to cultivate properly. One day, she would do whatever she wanted. Was a beggar's robe not better than an imperial robe? Mu Jinghong looked at Sumo and could not help but be stunned. This was because she could feel that Sumo was not saying nice words on purpose. She was speaking from the bottom of her heart. Sumo was really different. However, Mu Jinghong's expression was still cold. All right. Mu Jinghong did not say anything else and looked at the golden arowana. I have a use for this golden arowana, King. I hope you can let me have it. I will compensate you. Seeing your sister Mu, you were the one who brought little Su up the mountain to cultivate. We could just give this golden arowana, King, to you. There's no need for any compensation. Chapter 23. Cough, cough. Bai Lai suddenly started coughing violently. His face was a little pale. Sumo pretended not to hear him. Bai Lai couldn't help but grin. He thought to himself, Sumo, do you know the value of this golden arowana fish, King? Do you know how much soup it can make? You gave it to him just like that, and you don't even want compensation? Mu Jinghong is going to be the #1 cultivator on 5 wheels in the future. Anything she gives is enough for us to squander. Sigh. Unfortunately, Sumo had already said it and ignored his reminder. He couldn't say anything else and could only sigh in his heart. Mu Jinghong looked at Sumo without saying anything. Then, he turned to look at Bai Lai with a cold smile. You must be the old cultivator boy on Yongjin Peak who hasn't grown an immortal root in 50 years, right? Hee. Bai Lai scratched his head. Looks like this old man is quite famous. You're the only cultivator boy of your age in 5 wheels. Who doesn't know that? Mu Jinghong said coldly. Then, he waved his hand, and a storage bag appeared. Here are 200 spirit stones for you. I won't take back senior brother Lu's net. This net is much more valuable than the fish. Do you understand? Mu Jinghong looked at Bai Lai deeply. Bai Lai didn't dare to say anything else. He didn't even dare to think about it. I, Mu Jinghong, never owe anyone a favor. Of course, I don't want anyone to owe me a favor either. Mu Jinghong seemed to be saying this to Bai Lai, but it also seemed to be saying this to Sumo. Mu Jinghong waved his hand, and a golden light shot out, directly covering the golden arowana fish king. The golden arowana fish king let out a cry that sounded like a baby's cry. Then, it instantly shrank and went straight for Mu Jinghong's palm. The white light emitted by Bai Lai's fishing net instantly disappeared. Mu Jinghong lifted the golden arowana fish king with one hand and smiled. Fish, let's see if you can still run this time. Sumo, cultivate well. At the end of the year, there would be a child cultivation test. I hope you can enter the inner sanctum as soon as possible. We will meet again someday. Mu Jinghong did not say anything else. He turned into a streak of black light and headed straight for the intersect of 5 wheels. Bai Lai caught Mu Jinghong's storage bag and opened it. His eyes widened. A total of 200 spirit stones were emitting a pale yellow light, making the wrinkles on Bai Lai's face shine with a golden light. Spirit stones, 200 pieces of spirit stones. Bai Lai was so excited that he trembled. Little Su, look. However, Sumo was staring blankly in the direction where Mu Jinghong had disappeared. She didn't seem to have heard Bai Lai's words. Actually, Sumo didn't think much of it. At that moment, he only thought that Mu Jinghong's faint smile was really beautiful. Looking at Mu Jinghong gradually disappearing, he did not know how far it was from here to the intersect of the 5-wheel world. His eyes were filled with confusion and determination. Sword Kinesis, intersect, foundation establishment. These seemed to be very far as well, but Sumo believed that he could reach them. He just needed a little more time. Mu Jinghong was a dream in his heart. Little Su. Bai Lai saw that Sumo didn't respond, so he went over and patted Sumo. Sumo finally regained her senses. Bai Lai looked at Sumo and teased. Why? You're interested in Fairy Mu. She entered 5 wheels 7 years ago, and she's already at the perfected advanced foundation establishment. You still want to eat a swan meat with that kind of fairy? She's known as the breathtaking 3,000 years of white bones. In the entire white bone mainland, she'll be a rare figure in the future. Bailai said proudly. Foundation establishment, breathtaking 3,000 years of white bones. Sumo rolled her eyes at Bailai and deliberately said disdainfully, Foundation establishment is nothing. I've even seen immortals who can fly in the sky and burrow into the ground. Do you believe me? I've been to the primordial world. The mountains there are thousands of meters tall, reaching straight into the clouds. Immortals have boundless magic power. They can ride on the clouds and have a lifespan of 10,000 years. They spit and it rains. They sneeze and there's thunder. One bite of that immortal peach can make you live for 3,600 years. One sip of that immortal wine can make a mortal drunk for 360 days. If you sleep with that fairy, even if you die, it'll be worth it. Sumo was a disciple of Lao Xuan too. Bailai looked at Sumo and grinned. Little Su, if you've seen immortals who can fly in the sky and burrow into the ground, then I, Bailai, am a nascent soul almighty. Fairy, chi refinement, foundation establishment, core formation, nascent soul, soul transformation. Legend has it that the founder of Five Wheels was a soul transformation almighty. Brag. Who doesn't know how to brag? Bailai no longer paid attention to Sumo. He put away the storage bag and hurriedly put away the fishing net. From Mu Jinghong's tone just now, this fishing net seemed to have a great background. Bailai, you stole that fishing net, right? Sumo had heard everything Mu Jinghong said just now. TCH, Bailai said disdainfully and continued to put away the fishing net. I, Bailai, am poor, but I won't steal. If it's a gift, it's a gift. Sumo smiled calmly. She didn't help, nor did she ask any more questions. The night was extremely beautiful. Sumo looked at the protective array of 5 wheels and muttered to herself, What's the point of being stunning for 3,000 years? I, Sumo, want to be stunning for 30,000 years. Sumo and Bailai returned to the cave, abode together. This time, although the two of them didn't obtain the golden arowana, they had gained quite a lot. The value of Sumo's black jade slip couldn't be seen, but it could be said that it had established a real connection with Mu Jinghong. That jade slip represented Mu Jinghong's acknowledgement of Sumo. Sumo understood this very well. Of course, he wouldn't disturb Mu Jinghong with the jade slip, nor would he easily crush it. However, with this jade slip, Sumo had a little more confidence in 5 wheels. Bailai was even more elated. In his 50 years in 5 wheels, this was the first time he had obtained so many spirit stones. One had to know that with his status in 5 wheels, he couldn't collect spirit stones. When they reached the cave abode, Bailai took out the storage bag again and looked at the spirit stones with a smile. These spirit stones were really warm. Little Su, here, I'll give you a few. Bailai generously took out 7 to 8 spirit stones and handed them to Sumo. You're too stingy. Sumo directly took them and then said with disdain, Bailai, if I didn't risk my life to catch the golden arowana king with a bamboo pole, would you have obtained these spirit stones? These spirit stones of yours are purely Bailai's. At least give me half. What a lion. Bailai's eyes widened. Little Su, if I didn't bring you fishing, and if I didn't bring you along with my fishing net, would you have been able to catch the golden arowana king and meet Fairy Mu? Weren't you pretending to be generous just now? You still don't want anything. You have no conscience. Fine, I'll give you 5 more. Bailai very carefully looked at Sumo while taking out 5 more spirit stones. Sumo didn't stand on ceremony and took them again. Then she laughed and scolded. Bailai, the two of us can go through thick and thin together, but we can't share wealth and fortune. I didn't realize that you were so stingy in the past. Give me more. Bailai rolled his eyes and completely ignored Sumo. Sumo leaned over and hugged Bailai's shoulder. Bailai tightly clutched the storage bag. Sumo smiled maliciously. Bailai, you haven't been able to cultivate immortal roots in 50 years. You can eat and drink on 5 wheels, so why do you need so many spirit stones? Let's exchange. I'll give you these 10 or so spirit stones. Just give me the rest of them. Hey, Bai Lai couldn't take it anymore. He glared and said, Little Sue, you're trying to get something for nothing, and you're too shameless. You just said you wanted half, and now you want a big part? Hee hee. Sumo wasn't embarrassed. Wasn't asking for something a beggar had to do. If they really wanted to compete in shamelessness, ordinary people really weren't her match. Facing Bai Lai, Sumo didn't have the so-called self-esteem she had with Mu Jinghong. Bai Lai, don't be anxious. Listen to me. Sumo smiled and said, Spirit stones are really useless to you. But I'm different. You know now that I've successfully cultivated immortal roots. As long as I have enough spirit stones, I can advance and enter the inner sect. Think about it. If I enter the inner sect, or even become a core formation elder in the future, with our friendship, what do you need to worry about on 5 wheels? In the future, you won't need to clean the cave. How great would it be to be free and unfettered every day? Think about it, am I right? Right now, we're poor friends. How can I forget you in the future? Isn't it just 200 spirit stones? Right now, I need it. If one day I become someone like Senior Marshal Sister Mu, you won't even have the chance to give me 200 spirit stones. Bai Lai, think about it. What kind of friendship do we have? Bai Lai, I'm giving you a chance. Bai Lai, if you give it to me in 2 days, I won't take it. Bai Lai, don't make things difficult. Sumo talked nonstop for a long time. In the end, Bai Lai was almost crying. The most important thing was that the more Bai Lai listened to Sumo, the more reasonable it seemed. In the entire 5 wheels, the only one who looked up to Bai Lai was Sumo. Moreover, Sumo had successfully taken root in less than 3 months. Although Bai Lai didn't know what this meant, he knew that Sumo's foundation wasn't ordinary. Moreover, Sumo had Mu Jinghong backing her up. Thinking about it, Bai Lai finally clenched his teeth and opened his storage bag again. AI. Bai Lai looked at Sumo with a sad face. Little Sue, you've made a meteoric rise. Don't forget me, old Bai. This old beggar has never seen so many spirit stones in my life, and you're my only friend. Sumo stretched out her hands, one hand holding Bai Lai's shoulder, the other hand patting her own chest. Bai Lai, don't worry. I, Sumo, am a man of my words. Once I'm powerful, I'll take care of everything you have. Bai Lai touched the storage bag again with teary eyes. Then he looked at Sumo. He wanted to see a bit of sincerity in Sumo's eyes. However, he didn't see it. Sumo, you're not reliable at all. Bai Lai muttered in his heart. Little Sue, can I keep it for another day to warm it up? Bai Lai said pitifully, this spirit stone is glistening yellow. It's warm just looking at it. Sure, do as you see fit. Sumo immediately let go of Bai Lai's arm. She probably raised her voice a bit, seeming to be slightly dissatisfied. It'll be daybreak soon. I'll go to Yangjian Peak to see if there are any other ways to obtain spirit stones. Recently, I've been a bit impatient. If it's enough, I won't need yours. All right, I remember that once I successfully take root, I can receive spirit stones every month, right? Although it's not a lot, it's still a favor. Sumo sighed and shook her head. Her face was desolate. Sigh, little Sue, you're ruthless. Bai Lai was so angry that he was trembling. In the end, he gritted his teeth and threw the storage bag in his hand to Sumo. Then, he turned around and left. This was because he still had to clean up the cave. He might as well not keep a single spirit stone for himself. Actually, Sumo was right. To Bai Lai, spirit stones did not mean much. They were just comfortable to touch and warm to look at. Sumo, if you don't cultivate properly, you'll be letting me Bai Lai down. Bai Lai's angry voice could be heard from outside the cave. I, Bai Lai, have never seen so many spirit stones in my life. You're my only friend in my life, inside the cave. Sumo caught the storage bag. The joking expression on her face instantly disappeared. Instead, it was replaced with a knowing smile. Actually, she knew that even if she did not want it, Bai Lai would still give it to her. However, Sumo loved to bicker with Bai Lai. The path of cultivation was too lonely. Bai Lai, don't worry. In the future, I, Sumo, will make sure that no one will bully you. As long as I, Sumo, am here, you, Bai Lai, will be here. Sumo held the storage bag and stared at the entrance whereby Lai had disappeared. Chapter 24. In a cave at the mountain gate. After Bai Lai left, Sumo took out the old copper bowl from his storage bag and threw a spirit stone into it. If it was really as he thought, and the copper bowl could enhance the spirit stone's spirit energy, then that would be great. That way, the 200 spirit stones would be equivalent to 400 or more spirit stones. Sumo's heart was filled with anticipation. He held the copper bowl in his hand and observed it intently. However, this time, he did not see any white gas at the bottom of the bowl. There was no change at all. After waiting for a long time, it was still the same. Sigh. Sumo was a little disappointed. It seemed that the bowl could only enhance the spiritual chi of spiritual food and immortal dishes, and not spirit stones. If that was the case, he might as well make more golden arowana soup. Sigh. Thus, Sumo put away the storage bag filled with spirit stones and a copper bowl. Then he sat cross-legged and crossed his hands. He placed the spirit stone in the copper bowl in his palm. He wanted to absorb the spiritual chi of the spirit stone and start cultivating. Now, Sumo was no longer cultivating the root fostering technique. Instead, he started cultivating the jade scroll that Zhao Yunxing gave him, which was the first part of chi training. The technique ranged from level 1 to level 5. Not only did it include breathing techniques, but it also included swordsmanship, moves, and the ability to control objects and swords after level 4. Compared to the root fostering technique, the first part of chi training was much stronger. As long as Sumo could master the first part of chi training, he could become a top-notch figure like Zhao Yunxing in the entire Yangzhen Peak. However, as soon as Sumo closed his eyes to cultivate according to the first part of chi training, he found something strange. This was because he couldn't sense any spiritual energy from the spirit stone at all. It turned out to be an ordinary stone with no spiritual energy at all. Sumo opened his eyes and looked at the stone carefully, but he could not find anything wrong with it. Mu Jinghong would never give him fake spirit stones. Thus, he took out another spirit stone from his storage pouch and examined it. The spiritual energy fluctuations coming from the spirit stone were completely normal. Sumo scanned the area with her spiritual awareness. All the spirit stones in the storage bag were full of spiritual chi. There was no problem. A copper bowl. Sumo's heart skipped a beat as she took out the copper bowl again. Then, he put a spirit stone filled with spiritual energy into the copper bowl and took it out after a while. Sure enough, the spirit stone was completely devoid of spiritual energy. Damn it! Sumo couldn't help but curse. His heart ached for the spirit stones. Isn't this copper bowl infused with spiritual energy? Why was it that when it came to the spirit stones, not only did it not strengthen them, but it even absorbed the spirit stone's spiritual energy? What a loss this time. Sumo hurriedly turned the copper bowl over and over again to look at it for a long time. She even used her psychic awareness to explore it, but she couldn't find anything different from before. What a scam. It wasn't easy for Sumo to get these spirit stones. But just when Sumo couldn't find anything special, he suddenly found that there was a dark line at the bottom of the copper bowl. The dark line wasn't obvious. If Sumo hadn't looked at it for a long time, he wouldn't have found it at all. The dark line was very shallow, and it seemed to be a kind of ancient rune pattern. Sumo felt that he had seen something similar somewhere before. Silent Death Valley. Yes. The dark line was similar to the symbol dark lines on the stone pillars in Silent Death Valley. Sumo slapped his forehead. That's right. Sumo was sure. Something was wrong. Sumo stared at the dark line for a while, wondering if the copper bowl had absorbed the spiritual energy from the spirit stones, which caused this change. But what did the appearance of this dark line mean? Sumo thought for a while and went to the corner of the cave abode to take out a few jade immortal sprouts. Sumo had eaten these jade immortal sprouts before, and he had also used the copper bowl to infuse them. Therefore, if he used this as an experiment, Sumo could get a more accurate answer. Sumo put the jade immortal sprouts in the copper bowl, and in an instant, the bottom of the bowl emitted traces of white chi, which was basically the same process as before. However, Sumo felt that the white chi seemed to be a little thicker. Sumo's heart stirred slightly. It seemed that what he was thinking was most likely right. Then, Sumo picked up the jade immortal sprouts and chewed them. Sure enough, the spirit chi infused by the copper bowl with a dark line was a little thicker than before. As expected, Sumo looked at the copper bowl and muttered to himself, "You're actually a copper bowl that can evolve?" These spirit stones weren't wasted. But I wonder what you will evolve into in the end? Everything was finally starting to have some clues. However, Sumo didn't put the more than 200 spirit stones into the copper bowl to gamble. He wasn't used to it. After all, the food he had was limited, and he didn't have top-grade or supreme-grade immortal dishes that were especially rich in spirit chi. If he only used the spirit stones that he had obtained with great difficulty to upgrade the copper bowl, he was afraid that the gains wouldn't make up for the losses. Therefore, Sumo temporarily divided the remaining spirit stones into 2 portions. He had used 2 just now, and originally he still had 2 more. So, it was exactly 200 spirit stones. 98 spirit stones were used for cultivation, and the remaining 100 spirit stones were kept. Sumo thought about it. This time, as long as he reached the peak of the 2nd or 3rd tier of the Chi Refinement realm, he would definitely have the ability to protect himself. He went to the Outer Sanctum's mission pavilion to collect his monthly spirit stones and accept a simple mission. This was the only way he could obtain a guarantee for his cultivation and further training opportunities. After thinking about it, Sumo once again meditated to cultivate. The sun rose and the moon set, and the cave was silent. Another month passed, and Sumo was completely immersed in cultivation. One must know that every step in cultivation required more than double the amount of time and spirit chi. The glowing white immortal root in his dantian was longer and thicker, and more of it was poking out of the water. Outside the immortal root, the first ring of water was shining like a ring, and the second ring of water was even clearer. Completion of the 2nd tier of the Chi Refinement realm. In this 1 month, the 98 spirit stones have already turned into ashes. At the same time, the spiritual food in the corner was also eaten by Sumo. Even though Bai Lai came a few times during this time and replenished his spiritual food. But the 5 wheels' cultivation quota was not enough to satisfy Sumo's needs. Sumo still had 100 spirit stones in his storage pouch, but he didn't use them in case he needed them. He knew that as his cultivation increases, these spirit stones may need to be used for the copper bowl or for other important purposes. Another half a month passed. On this day, Sumo finally opened his eyes. The light in his eyes was reserved. Chi Refinement realm. Talent, spirit stones, the copper bowl's spiritual food, and most importantly, cultivation. All these factors combined together allowed Sumo to reach the 3rd realm of Chi Refinement. In less than 5 months, he reached the 3rd realm of Chi Refinement. This was a speed that would shock the entire 5 wheels. But after 5 months of cultivation at 5 wheels, Sumo could be said to have been reborn. He was no longer the little beggar from before. His body was much taller, and his eyes were full of spirit. It was just that he was still wearing the same tattered clothes. The 3rd realm of Chi Refinement was already below average among the outer disciples of 5 wheels. Even Huang Zhe and Deng Feng were only at the 5th realm of Chi Refinement. Chapter 25. It had been almost 5 months since Sumo joined the sect, but this was only his 2nd time going to Yangjian Peak. The last time was 2 months ago, when Zhao Yunxing brought him around. However, Zhao Yunxing had been in seclusion. Compared to the other children, Sumo could be said to be closed off. At this time, the other children were familiar with the Yangjian Peak, but Sumo was like a newcomer. Originally, Sumo wanted to come with Bai Lai, but he didn't know what Bai Lai was busy with. That was because Bai Lai was a good guide. The ant on Yangjian Peak was a pair with that ant, and it was said that he was familiar with both of them. However, he didn't see Bai Lai at all. There was no news from Huang Zhe and Deng Feng, and he didn't know what mission they were on. Sumo went straight to Yangjian Peak alone, and he met many children along the way. The 5 Wheels was a first-class immortal sect in the Bone Mainland. It was definitely an existence that mortals couldn't reach. Even itinerant cultivators, small sects, and cultivation families had to look up to it. So, all of those child cultivators wore clothes that were as white as snow, and they were clean, neat, and brimming with energy. The gray-robed outer sect disciples even had a faint immortal chi about them. Only Sumo didn't care about it. He was dressed in rags and looked sloppy. The scenery along the way, nothing was impossible. Sumo sighed in his heart. He was quite carefree along the way. 5 months ago, he was still begging for food in Peach Blossom Town, hoping that old Xian was an otherworldly expert. 5 months later, he was already cultivating in the Celestial Sect and was now a cultivator in the 3rd level of the Qi refinement realm. Everything was like a dream, and the world was ever-changing. Therefore, Sumo's footsteps were relaxed, and he looked content. On Yangjin Peak, most of the children and cultivators didn't know Sumo. After all, they came at night, and when Zhao Yunqing walked around with Sumo, there were only a few people who saw them. Moreover, they were all cultivators who spent most of their time cultivating. Who would remember an unrelated beggar? Occasionally, there were 2 people who remembered Sumo and nodded slightly, which was already considered polite. It was mostly because of Zhao Yunqing. Not many people knew about Sumo's background. Most people looked at Sumo with disdain and confusion. How could there be such a character in 5 wheels? How did this beggar get up the mountain? Why wasn't there even a single white robe? If it weren't for the mountain protecting array of 5 wheels that could identify their own disciples, and if Sumo didn't have the storage bag of 5 wheels on her, perhaps there would have been cultivators coming forward to question Sumo. Even so, most people kept their distance from Sumo. Some female cultivators even deliberately covered their noses when passing by Sumo. In fact, these were female cultivators who couldn't build their foundation in their lifetime, because their temperaments were too bad. Although Sumo was dressed shabbily, a cultivator at the 3rd level of Qi refining wouldn't have any smell. Those female cultivators were just putting on an act to make themselves look noble. Sumo saw all of this and sneered coldly in his heart. Just like he said, this kind of disdain could only make him not forget his roots and cultivate with all his might. What he saw along the way was indeed this effect. Although Sumo looked calm, he secretly clenched his teeth. Apart from cultivating, I really have no other way to go. What's this little disdain? While walking, he comprehended. Sumo had already arrived at the task pavilion. The task pavilion of Yangjin Peak was relatively simple. After all, there were only outer disciples on Yangjin Peak. The purpose of this task pavilion was to encourage disciples to cultivate well and enter the inner sect as soon as possible. Only after reaching the 5th level of Qi refining, the sect would assign some tasks to complete. It was just an ordinary cave filled with jade scrolls. Every jade scroll contained a task, and the corresponding reward was spirit stones. It was said that the person in charge of the task pavilion was an inner disciple at the intermediate level of foundation building, but he rarely showed up. In addition, there were 2 outer disciples at the peak of the 5th level of Qi refining assisting him. Normally, there weren't many people in front of the task pavilion. However, on the day Sumo arrived, it was the day that spirit stones were distributed. There was actually a long line of hundreds of people in front of the task pavilion. 5 wheels rules. Outer disciples at the 1st and 2nd level of Qi refining could receive 2 spirit stones every month, while those at the 3rd and 4th level could receive 5 spirit stones every month. Those at the 5th level could receive 10 spirit stones, and those at the 6th level could receive 15 spirit stones. Once an outer disciple reached the 7th level of Qi refining, they would choose to enter one of the inner sects to cultivate. However, 5 Wheels' inner disciples didn't receive spirit stones on a monthly basis. However, it was said that the abundance of spiritual energy in the inner sect far surpassed that in Yangjin Peak. At the same time, there were various kinds of tasks and contributions in the inner sect. As long as you completed the tasks with your own ability, you would receive the corresponding spirit stones. The number of disciples in the outer sect couldn't compare. Therefore, entering the inner sect was the dream of almost all disciples at Yangjin Peak. At this time, Only cultivators in gray robes were qualified to line up in front of the task pavilion. 5 Wheels didn't give spirit stones to child cultivators. Sumo saw this and naturally lined up at the end of the line. He was at the 3rd level of chi refining, so of course he was qualified to receive spirit stones and tasks. However, as soon as he stood in the line, he attracted a lot of astonished gazes. Some of them were astonished that this beggar was actually a chi refining cultivator. How come they had never seen him before? A few cultivators in gray robes who seemed to have some impression of Sumo were even more astonished. Wasn't that little beggar a child cultivator? He hadn't been on the mountain for long, yet he succeeded in cultivating his roots. Did he become a 1st level chi refining cultivator? That's impossible. It must be known that the large number of child cultivators 5 months ago were indeed talented. Among them, there were 4 who successfully cultivated their chi roots, causing a sensation in the entire Yongjin Peak. Even the inner sect knew about it. However, they were all famous people at Yongjin Peak, so none of them looked like little beggars. At this time, among the gray-robed cultivators in the line, there were 2 who recognized Sumo. They were Senior Marshal Brother Li and Senior Marshal Brother Lu, who were together with Chun Dong to cause trouble for Sumo. Senior Marshal Brother Li was called Li Tai. He had a tall stature and was endowed with extraordinary strength. Senior Marshal Brother Lu was called Lu Yichong. When the 2 of them saw Sumo, they couldn't help but look at each other. Li Tai's injury had just healed. Although they gave face to Zhao Yunxing last time and didn't cause trouble for Sumo, it didn't mean that they would be friendly when they saw Sumo. Little beggar, you're standing in the wrong line. Li Tai's voice was loud and clear. At this time, he deliberately raised his voice even further. This is the Mission Pavilion, where you can collect your monthly spirit stones or missions. If you want to beg, you have to line up at a rich family's house at the foot of the mountain. Cool. In fact, Li Tai's words were also what the others were thinking. Sumo's appearance was that of a beggar. What was she doing here? As soon as Li Tai opened his mouth, someone else immediately echoed. That's right. This is the Mission Pavilion. Why is a little beggar like you lining up? How did our 5 Wheels accept a beggar as a disciple? AI, little beggar, how did you get chosen to go up the mountain? I remember that 5 Wheels needs to pay 100 copper coins to go up the mountain. How did you get it? Chapter 26. According to 5 Wheels' sect rules, those who participated in the disciple selection test had to pay 100 copper coins first. If they did not, then they could not participate. 100 copper coins was just a small sum of money for ordinary people, but if they were chosen, 5 Wheels would return the 100 copper coins. If they were not chosen, then they would not be returned. Many people did not understand 5 Wheels' actions, thinking that 5 Wheels was making a profit. In reality, that was not the case. Those copper coins did not mean much to the immortal sect. Those copper coins that were not returned would eventually be given to the mortal world by 5 Wheels through various channels. The purpose of collecting copper coins was to warn the world that there was no free lunch in this world, and there was nothing that came without risks. Immortal cultivation also came with a price. However, Sumo was personally brought up the mountain by Mu Jinghong, so there was no such process. At this moment, there was a large space in front and behind Sumo, because the people in front and behind him deliberately kept a certain distance from him. Standing together with a little beggar, they felt that they were degrading themselves. After a while, it seemed that they were a cut above others. People were like this. Actually, not everyone hated Sumo, but for the sake of face, they had to show that they were not in cahoots with others. Li Deity took the lead to jeer, and everyone discussed and even mocked him. Sumo looked coldly at Li Deity, not saying a word. Sumo could tolerate it, and, at the same time, she was too lazy to argue with such people. It was really meaningless. However, Sumo's silence made Li Deity and the others even more arrogant. Hey, little beggar, why are you mute after not seeing you for 2 months? You can stand in this group. Could it be that you succeeded in nurturing your roots? Li Deity took almost a step towards Sumo, shaking his fist. My injuries have just healed. Where's your broken bamboo pole? Why didn't you bring it? Back then, I was giving face to senior brother Zhao Yunxing. Now that there's a chance, let's spar again. Although Li Deidi said that Sumo succeeded in nurturing her roots, he was still quite doubtful in his heart. However, he did not have Mu Jinghong's ability to see through Sumo's cultivation. Sumo looked at Li Deidi and smiled coldly, still not saying anything. The current Sumo was really not afraid of Li Deidi. Wasn't Li Deidi just at the peak of the third level of Qi refining? Ah, he. Junior brother to Tai, do you know this little beggar? From what you're saying, you fought with him, and you're even injured. Huh, Big Tai, forget it. Look, he's ignoring you, and you still want to spar? That little beggar didn't even think highly of you. Li Deidi really felt like he couldn't take it anymore when the people next to him pushed him. Originally, he wanted to humiliate Sumo to vent his anger, but Sumo didn't say anything at all, making him lose face instead. Li Deidi was a straightforward person, so he wanted to find trouble with Sumo again. Big Tai, don't cause trouble. Senior apprentice brother Zhao instructed us. Have you forgotten? This little beggar might have some background. Liu Yicheng pulled Li Deidi aside, because he had a feeling that Sumo wasn't that simple. Otherwise, with Zhao Yunxing's personality, how could he take the initiative to protect Sumo? Moreover, since Sumo dared to stand on Grey Robe's team, she must have something to rely on. Li Deidi wasn't a completely stupid person, so when Liu Yicheng pulled him, he calmed down and stopped walking. At this moment, someone shouted, "Senior apprentice Sister Xiao is here." Swish! In an instant, everyone's attention shifted from Sumo to that senior apprentice Sister Xiao. Sumo also turned her head and saw a woman in white walking over from not far away. There were tens of thousands of disciples in the entire 5 wheels. On the Yongjin Peak, Sumo's batch of child cultivators numbered 5,337. This was the first time in the past 1,000 years that 5 wheels selected so many child cultivators to go up the mountain at once. This was because 5 wheels was in urgent need of new blood, and they hoped even more that there would be amazing talents among the disciples of 5 wheels. If there were 1 or 2 nascent soul-level ancestors in the future, they would be able to restore their former glory. Perhaps the heavens didn't disappoint 5 wheels. The overall aptitude of Sumo's batch of 5 wheels as child cultivators seemed to be something that was rarely seen in 1,000 years. This was because in the past, if the child cultivators of 5 wheels could cultivate immortal roots in about a year, then their aptitude was already excellent. If they could cultivate immortal roots in 2 years, then it was not bad. It had to be known that Mu Jinghong, who was known for his stunning bones of 3,000 years, had successfully cultivated immortal roots in 3 whole months. And people like Zhao Yunxing, who was already considered an outstanding talent of 5 wheels, had taken about a year to cultivate immortal roots. However, Sumo's batch of disciples seemed to be completely different. Most of the child cultivators had actually condensed their qi into a si within 3 months. What was even more amazing was that out of these 3,337 people, 4 of them had successfully cultivated immortal roots in 4.5 months. Successfully cultivated immortal roots in 4.5 months. This was tantamount to setting a precedent for 5 wheels in the past 3,000 years. This was because the last cultivator of 5 wheels who could cultivate immortal roots in 4.5 months was now a nascent soul cultivator. However, nascent soul cultivators were absolute ancestors within 5 wheels, and they almost never showed themselves. In theory, those who could successfully cultivate immortal roots in 4.5 months would almost certainly reach nascent soul in the future. If these 4 nascent soul seedlings could reach perfection, it would be enough for 5 wheels to flourish for another 3,000 years. And among the 4 disciples who had successfully cultivated immortal roots, one of them was this junior sister Xiao. Her name was Xiao Chuya. Not only was she one of the 4 disciples who had successfully cultivated immortal roots, but she was also the first to succeed. Now, she was already at the first level of qi refinement. The inner sect disciple who had brought her up the mountain had told her about Mu Jinghong's past. She was proud and arrogant, and in her heart, she secretly wanted to become a woman like Mu Jinghong. Without a doubt, Xiao Chuya was talented, but compared to Mu Jinghong, there seemed to be a gap. Moreover, within this half-month, there were 3 more people who had successfully cultivated immortal roots. She heard that in a few more days, there would be another batch of children who had successfully cultivated immortal roots. This kind of situation made Xiao Chuya a little annoyed. These days, she often went out for a walk to relieve her boredom. Xiao Chuya was the best in cultivating immortal roots. Coupled with her white clothes and beautiful appearance, she was as majestic as a fairy. In this half-month, she had become the focal point of Yongjin Peak. Today was the day to collect her spirit stones. Since Xiao Chuya had successfully cultivated immortal roots, she was now at the first level of qi refinement, so she also came to collect her spirit stones. At the same time, she also had the right to change into the outer sect cultivator's gray robe. Her appearance could be said to have helped Sumo out of her predicament, or to have prevented Li Deity from being even more embarrassed. Junior Sister Xiao. Junior Sister Xiao, hello. Junior Sister Xiao, you have finally come to collect your spirit stones. Junior Sister Xiao, you have successfully cultivated immortal roots in less than 4 months. You are truly a genius of 5 wheels. My foolish brother, Shunlang, is at the 3rd level of qi refinement. I would like to get to know you. Junior Sister Xiao, your foolish brother, Zhou Ping, is at the 4th level of qi refinement. The moment Xiao Chuya appeared, many of the cultivators in gray robes on Yongjin Peak tried to strike up a conversation with her. There was no other way. The world of cultivation was also a world where appearance was important. Xiao Chuya would nod at every cultivator in gray robes she met and address them as senior brother. Before she came to the mountain, she was the daughter of a wealthy family. It was only because she admired the immortal Tao that she entered 5 wheels. Therefore, her manners were decent, and her words were not bad. She had good looks, high EQ, and was extremely talented. Chapter 27. The line to collect tasks and spirit stones was very long. Xiao Chuya was originally at the end of the line, but more than half of the gray-clothed male cultivators were willing to give their positions to her. When Sumo saw this scene, she couldn't help but sigh in her heart. The treatment of a beggar and a beauty is really different. Just now when I was standing here, those gray-clothed cultivators probably wanted to throw me out. Thank you, Senior Marshal Brothers. I'm not in a hurry. I'll just stand here and wait for a while. Senior Marshal Brothers, you all have important things to do, so time is precious. Xiao Chuya replied with a smile. Her voice was pleasant, and her words made people feel comfortable. At this time, Xiao Chuya also saw Sumo. Because Sumo's tattered clothes were really too conspicuous among the gray-clothed cultivators. However, Xiao Chuya's eyes didn't show any trace of surprise or contempt. She even nodded slightly at Sumo. It seemed that in her eyes, Sumo was also a respectable senior martial brother, no different from the others. Oh, Sumo nodded in return, but in her heart, she felt that this Xiao Chuya in front of her was not ordinary. Her life as a beggar allowed Sumo to see many things in the world. Xiao Chuya either had an incomparably pure heart, like a flawless jade, or she was extremely shrewd, unable to show her emotions. And Sumo's understanding of Xiao Chuya was more inclined to the latter, because that woman looked too perfect. Gradually, more people lined up. Before the commotion caused by Xiao Chuya's appearance had completely subsided, 2 white-clothed male cultivators came together. They were 2 male cultivators. One of them looked to be only 11 or 12 years old. He wasn't tall, and his face was still childish. The other one was tall and had an extraordinary appearance. When Sumo saw this, he couldn't help but sneer in his heart. She didn't know that 12-year-old boy, but the other one was his old acquaintance, Chendong. Greetings, Senior Martial Brothers. Chendong seemed to be very familiar with the gray-clothed cultivators as he kept cupping his hands in greeting. The boy who came with him seemed too young and inexperienced. His aloof gaze made many people dislike him. Today is really a gathering of heroes. 3 of the 4 male cultivators who successfully cultivated their roots are here. A gray-clothed cultivator said. Of course. Xiao Chuya, Chundong, and Song Tanjir are all here. If Lung Muzi comes, they'll be all here. For months to nurture the roots, the 4 great cultivators of Yongjin Peak, hee. If they really came, it would be a grand occasion. Our 5 wheels haven't appeared in 3,000 years. The gray-clothed cultivator spoke somewhat sourly. After all, back then, which of them didn't take years to nurture their roots? Geniuses were always envied by others. Sumo heard their conversation, nurturing his roots for 4 months. Although it couldn't be compared to her, Sumo knew that it was definitely a top-notch talent. Chundong's character was average, but he wasn't careless when it came to cultivation. At this moment, Chundong saw Sumo with a single glance, and a trace of surprise flashed through his eyes. Then, he whispered a few words to Song Tanjir, and the 2 of them went straight to Sumo. When Sumo saw Chundong walking toward her, she shook her head gently and sighed. She felt that Chundong was going to be unlucky again, because every time Chundong saw her, he seemed to be unlucky. Why does this guy have such a bad memory? Junior brother Su, Chundong shouted at Sumo carelessly, as if they were very familiar with each other. Brother Chun, Sumo smiled faintly. This is junior brother Song. Chundong introduced to Sumo. He is the first male cultivator among our group of male cultivators to successfully nurture his roots, and he has a very rare, pure, immortal root. Nice to meet you. Sumo slightly cupped her hands at Song Tanjir. As for the pure, immortal root, Sumo didn't care at all. Everyone had their own opportunities. Little beggar, how dare you say nice to meet me? Song Tanjir's face was immature, and he spoke as if he didn't have a brain. At this time, he had a look of contempt for Sumo. It seemed that if it weren't for Chundong's face, he wouldn't have come over. Sumo didn't get angry at all, but looked natural. He understood that just now, Chundong must have said something to Song Tanjir, and that Song Tanjir was an idiot. It is tiring to talk to someone with such a low EQ. Therefore, Sumo turned around and no longer paid attention to Chundong and Song Tanjir, because at this time, it was Li Deidi and Lu Yichong's turn to receive the task and spirit stones, and then it was Sumo's turn. Junior brother Su, you are just a doorkeeper. Why are you here instead of guarding the mountain gate of 5 wheels? Chundong said. In fact, after the first 2 losses, Chundong also learned to be smart. Today, he was not going to fight, but to humiliate Sumo in public. 7 days ago, he succeeded in raising the root and was full of satisfaction. After inquiring about it, he was the 4th in the same batch of children who succeeded in raising the root. Today, he didn't expect that he would meet Sumo. If he still couldn't beat Sumo, where was the justice? A doorkeeper? Most of the people present didn't know Sumo. Because of the appearance of Xiao Chia just now, they didn't pay attention to Sumo. At this time, Chundong's words aroused everyone's enthusiasm again. A doorkeeper boy? An apprentice who looks after the door? Hey, don't tell me that apart from the old beggar Xiotong, our 5-will sect also has another Xiotong who makes a living? Huh, now that you mention it, I really have an impression. I think I really saw it once. This little beggar and old Bai Lai went to the immortal river together. Really? Young and old beggars mixed together. Huh, 2 good-for-nothings. Oh, then I understand. There was even a chi refinement cultivator who suddenly realized. The task pavilion also seems to have tasks like cleaning caves. This last sentence was really true. In the task pavilion on Yongjin Peak, the lowest task was really to clean caves. However, no one took such tasks at all. So many people forgot it. At this time, someone mentioned it, and everyone had an epiphany. No wonder this little beggar also came to line up. It turned out to be like this. In an instant, everyone laughed. Chundong, Li Deidi, Song Tanjir, and even Lu Yichong, who was cautious just now, couldn't help but laugh. Their doubts just now were finally solved. Sumo was actually here to receive a mission to sweep the cave. At this time, among all the people in line, only 2 people didn't laugh. One was Sumo, and the other was Xiao Chuya. Not only did Xiao Chuya not laugh, but she frowned. Of course, Sumo wouldn't laugh. He didn't care what others said about him, but someone mentioned Bai Lai just now, which was a taboo for Sumo. Sumo couldn't help but feel a little cold in his heart. However, he just looked deeply at the disciple who just said that he and Bai Lai were good-for-nothings. That was a disciple in gray clothes at the third level of Qi refinement, who just introduced himself as Shun Lang. Remembering his appearance, Sumo didn't say anything. He didn't refute, which was equivalent to acquiescence. Chapter 28. Li Deidi and Lu Yichong didn't leave after receiving their spirit stones and mission. Little beggar, if I knew you were queuing so hard just to receive that kind of mission, I would have let you receive it first. You can clean a few caves while you're queuing. Li Deidi looked at Sumo as if she was a joke. All right, when you get to my cave, help me clean it up. I'm too lazy to be ruthless. Huh. Don't worry, Senior Li. I'll bring Junior Su there later. He might not be familiar with the situation at Yangjian Peak. After all, he's been guarding the mountain gate. Dong said. Hee. No need. Junior Brother Chun, did you forget that he still has a helper, Bai Lai? That old guy has been on the root nurturing peak for dozens of years. Which cave has he not cleaned? At this time, Shun Lang, who was at the third level of Qi refining, said recklessly. That's true. Dong nodded in agreement and said apologetically. Junior Su, I've worried too much. I forgot about your good partner, Bai Lai. The corner of Sumo's mouth curled up as a cold smile flashed across his face. What a coincidence. Just as they were talking, Bai Lai walked past the mission pavilion. He seemed to have just finished cleaning a cave. Hey, Bai Lai, a sharp-eyed disciple saw Bai Lai. Ha ha. Another burst of laughter rang out. Whatever he said would come true. Come. Bai Lai, you've come at the right time. Wait for a while. Your little brother is about to receive his mission. You two can leave together. Bai Lai, did you clean my cave today? Bai Lai, I'm in a good mood today. You should also clean up my immortal cave. Remember, get more water and make it clean. Bai Lai always passed by here. However, no one on Route Nurturing Peak was willing to talk to him. Even if he bowed and bowed when he saw others, he was basically ignored. He was like air. Unexpectedly, there were so many people talking to him today. Bai Lai was a little confused and didn't understand what was going on. Senior brothers, don't worry. Bai Lai will definitely clean it up for you. Definitely. It was unknown whether he was nervous or excited, but Bai Lai was stuttering. Ha! This made everyone burst into laughter again. Bai Lai was wearing a tattered white robe. He stood there in embarrassment. Dirty and stupid. Bai Lai, you go back first. Sumo raised her eyebrows. Little Su. Bai Lai was probably too nervous. He only noticed Sumo after she spoke to him. However, he still stood there in a daze. At this time, Bai Lai was completely different from the Bai Lai who was alone with Sumo. Sumo felt a stabbing pain in her heart. Bai Lai's days in 5 wheels had always been like this. No one cared about him. It was just that this was the first time Sumo saw it. Bai Lai, you go back first. Sumo said. At this time, Bai Lai finally reacted and was about to leave. Bai Lai, don't go. It was that Shun Lang who actually went to block Bai Lai's path. Wait, you and the little beggar will go together. 2 pieces of trash will make 1 companion. With that, Shun Lang actually grabbed Bai Lai's arm. Bai Lai didn't dare to resist. At this time, it was Sumo's turn to collect her spirit stones and mission at the mission pavilion. The rules of 5 wheels. If it was a gray-robe cultivator, then there would be a record. Unless they had advanced, there was no need to take the test. However, if it was the first time a child cultivator came to collect his spirit stones, then he would have to take the test. Sumo stood in front of the cave and turned her head to look at Shun Lang. You let go of Bai Lai. Let him go back, Sumo said calmly without any emotion. Let him go back. Sure, immediately. Shun Lang looked at Sumo and said mockingly, In a while, after you have taken the cleaning mission, I will let him go with you. Shun Lang kept looking at Sumo with eyes filled with disdain. Bai Lai, stand there and don't move. Shun Lang coldly shouted at Bai Lai, If you dare to leave, I will break your legs. Bai Lai was so scared by Shun Lang that he trembled. He stood there helplessly, not daring to move at all. He also didn't look at Sumo. It was common for Bai Lai to be beaten up. The two disciples in the mission pavilion, who were at the 5th level of Qi refining stage, did not look too favorably upon Sumo. They also thought that Sumo was here to take the cleaning mission. Other than Bai Lai, no one else had taken that mission before. Therefore, their expressions were rather cold. They didn't care about the dispute outside. In the mission pavilion, the inner court disciple who was at the 8th level of Qi refining stage did not even show his face. In this world, you can only rely on yourself. Sumo silently said in her heart, Bai Lai, why don't you leave? Huh? Little beggar, it's your turn. Quickly take the cleaning mission and leave. Junior brother Su, it's your turn. Shun Dong said with a smile that was not a smile. He was waiting to see Sumo make a fool of himself so that he could relieve the pent-up anger in his heart. Shunlang, let Bai Lai go back. Sumo ignored the others and once again said to Shunlang. When Shunlang heard this, he thought that Sumo might be threatening him. Bai Lai, if you dare to leave, I will definitely break your legs. Shunlang glared at Bai Lai fiercely and then raised his head to look at Sumo. Bai Lai was so scared that his face turned pale. Both his legs were trembling. He really did not dare to leave. Sumo's cheeks tightened and his pupils shrank. Then he rushed to the two disciples in the mission pavilion and said, I want to take the test. The two disciples were stunned. They muttered in their hearts that there was no need to take the test. Sweeping missions did not require one to nurture one's roots. However, they still instinctively activated the testing circle. Sumo wanted to take the test and did not take the mission. What? Instantly, there was silence. The testing array was activated in an instant, but Su Immo suddenly turned around. His body was like lightning, and he said coldly, Root nurturing peak is full of scum. Whoosh, Sumo's speed was extremely fast. It was as if he had transformed into a ragged shadow. He suddenly punched towards Shunlang's lower abdomen. Shunlang never thought that Sumo would actually dare to punch him. He also never thought that Sumo would have such strength. Bang! Boom! Everything happened in an instant. This punch from Sumo was aimed at Bai Lai. Awa! Shunlang screamed in pain and was sent flying 3 to 4 feet away. Blood spurted out like a pillar. Sumo's sudden attack was out of everyone's expectations. When Sumo said that she wanted to take the test, the mission pavilion was silent. Just now, Sumo's sudden attack was like a falcon swooping down like a hare. At first, it was quiet, but then there was a commotion. Shunlang was a cultivator who had cultivated in the 5 wheels for 10 years and was in the Qi cultivation stage 3. However, Sumo's attack was too sudden. No one thought that Sumo, who was speaking calmly a moment ago, would suddenly attack. Moreover, it was so ruthless. The strength and speed of that punch was not any weaker than a cultivator in the Qi cultivation stage 3. Silence. Silence. Everyone still hadn't reacted yet. Shunlang was sent flying 3 feet away. He did not make any more sounds. His chest was covered in blood. It was as if he was dead. Sumo, a few cultivators who were on good terms with Shunlang finally reacted. They were about to rush towards Sumo. A little beggar actually dared to attack someone first. However, Sumo's body moved, and she was already in front of the mission pavilion. She then placed one of her hands on the testing array. Whoosh, whoosh. In an instant, the sky was filled with white light. A white flame seemed to fill up the entire mission pavilion. The white light was eye-catching. It was extremely glaring. At the same time, there seemed to be something else in the white light. However, no one could see it clearly. Other than the white light, there were 2 clear rings of water. There was also a faint trace of water. At that moment, everyone was dumbfounded. They froze on the spot as if they were dumbfounded. At this moment, there was no lack of top outer disciples who were in the Qi cultivation stage 6. Some of them had been cultivating in the Yangzhen Peak for more than 30 years. Chapter 29. According to the knowledge of most cultivators on Yangzhen Peak, immortal roots were divided into 5 colors: red, yellow, purple, green, and blue. Among them, pure colors were the most common, but they were relatively rare. 2-colored immortal roots and 3-colored immortal roots were more common, but they were usually biased towards a certain color. In short, the more mixed the color, the worse it was. For example, Zhao Yunxing had a yellow immortal root, but it was biased towards yellow. Today, Childsong had a red immortal root, which was rare. In theory, that ball of white light should be Sumo's immortal root. But why was it milky white? Also, the immortal foundation was shaped like a tree root, hence the name immortal root. What was with that blinding white light from Sumo? Was it the legendary supreme grade immortal root? It couldn't be. At this moment, many cultivators on the 5 wheels were alarmed. There were high-level cultivators on the 5 wheels and 7 meridians. On the Yongjin Peak, a dozen divine senses flashed. Heaven immortal root. On the Earth Wheel Mountain, an old cultivator frowned slightly. The sky is white, and the earth is ink. This kid is extraordinary. Could it be that the opportunity of the Tian Wheel Mountain has arrived? Hee. On the Tian Wheel Mountain, a middle-aged cultivator in a long robe smiled, but his eyes flashed with a strong, murderous intent. There were also cultivators from the other peaks, either talking to themselves or staying silent. At this moment, Mu Jinghong was standing in the void, not far from the Yongjin Peak, a warm smile on his cold face. It was definitely an expression that was rarely seen on the cold and elegant Mu Jinghong's face. On the Ancestral Spirit Peak, a blind old man let out a long sigh. Heaven Immortal Root? What a joke. How can a Heaven Immortal Root have such a strong, murderous aura and deathly aura? But I hope that the 5 Wheels War can be settled. I can't suppress it. Sigh. On the Yongjin Peak. What realm was this little beggar in? The 3rd Qi Refinement Realm? Because there were 3 layers of water halos in the testing array. Silence. Still silence. Wow. Then, countless exclamations erupted in front of the mission pavilion. Everyone could hardly believe their eyes. Li Deidi, Lu Yicheng, Chun Dong, and Song Tanger all stood there in a daze. At that moment, they all looked at the 2 disciples in the mission pavilion who were in charge of the test. Even Xiao Chuya, who had always been calm and reserved, could not help but have a change of expression. Sumo was beyond everyone's expectations. However, the 2 cultivators in the mission pavilion were also dumbfounded. The formation is broken? Impossible. Just now, there were also disciples who had just advanced and completed the test. There was absolutely no problem with the formation. But the 2 of them looked at each other but didn't say anything. They had never seen that white light before. Looking at the mission pavilion, a figure suddenly appeared. It was a tall and thin middle-aged cultivator in a black robe with a sharp gaze. The Middle Stage Foundation Establishment Intersect Cultivator was the person in charge of Yongjin Peak's mission pavilion. Level 3 of Qi Refinement. The tall and thin cultivator looked at the testing formation and couldn't help but gasp. He had been in charge of Yongjin Peak's mission pavilion for nearly 30 years, but never had a disciple come to take the test and directly pass the 3rd level of Qi Refinement. Actually, it was not his fault for being ignorant, because Sumo was really unprecedented in the 5 wheels. That was the first in 10,000 years. What was 30 years? Level 3 of Qi Refinement. Level 3 of Qi Refinement. The Foundation Establishment Cultivator's words made the gray-robed cultivator's expressions change several times. They were all slapped hard in the face, and this slap was not just a normal slap. Li Deidi's face was red, speechless. LV3 of the Qi Refining Realm was a level higher than him. For months on the mountain, how did Sumo do it? Lu Yicheng was secretly glad that his performance just now was not too excessive. Qindong's face turned green and white, but he quickly calmed down. He actually bowed slightly to Sumo and smiled apologetically. Congratulations, Senior Brother Su. Level 3 of Qi Refinement. Of course, he had to call him Senior Brother. Song Tanger, on the other hand, had some backbone. Seeing the situation, his face darkened, and he actually flung his sleeves and walked away. He was not as thick-skinned as Chun Dong. Little sister Xiao Chuya congratulates Senior Brother Su. Xiaoqia leisurely walked over and gracefully bowed to Su and Mo. Her expression was the same as usual, as she looked natural and unrestrained. She had been behaving appropriately, so there was not the slightest discomfort. "Congratulations, junior brother Su. Congratulations, senior brother Su. Haha, junior brother Su, I was just joking. Don't take it to heart. Junior brother Su is a magnanimous man. How could you lower yourself to our level? That's right. Senior brother Su does not care about trifles, and his ragged clothes make him even more unconventional and different. Junior brother Su, we are all from the same sect. We should be closer in the future." Yeah, if one only looked at this scene, one would feel how much Sumo was taken care of on Yongjin Peak, how incomparably harmonious and affectionate the seniors and juniors were. Unfortunately, it was merely the fickleness of human nature and the fickleness of the world. Strength determined everything. Sumo had seen far too much. The secular world was like this, and Immortal Grove was also like this. If not for Sumo sending Shun Lang flying with a punch, plus that inconceivable test result, how could these gray-clothed cultivators have this kind of attitude? Just now, weren't those gray-clothed cultivators preparing to stand up for Shun Lang? One's own strength was the capital to do anything. At this time, facing the crowd of cultivators whose faces had changed, Sumo was not arrogant, nor did he feign modesty. He only clasped his hands at everyone and smiled faintly, indicating that the matter just now was merely a misunderstanding and a joke. On Yongjin Peak, laughter rang out everywhere. Everything just now was as if nothing happened. At this time, Shun Lang was lying not far away, and no one showed any interest in him at all. In the distance, Mu Jinghong smiled coldly. She had seen everything that happened on 5 wheels. Yongjin Peak was merely a microcosm of 5 wheels. What a joke, 5 wheels! Mu Jinghong muttered to himself. In less than 5 months, he had reached stage 3 of Qi cultivation. What did that mean? Perhaps it was not just nascent soul, but soul transformation. Which was more important? Anyone with a brain would be able to figure it out. Although it was still very far away, who would be willing to offend someone with absolute potential? 5 months to reach stage 3 of Qi cultivation. The sect would definitely put in a lot of effort to nurture him. Just now, the few cultivators who wanted to stand up for Shun Lang were all speechless. Bai Lai, go back. Sumo looked at Bai Lai and smiled warmly. Tonight, get something and let's drink. Hey, I'll get it done now. After witnessing everything just now, Bai Lai was so emotional that he wiped away his tears. Although he knew that Sumo had taken root a long time ago, he didn't expect Sumo to be so powerful. Sumo had helped Bai Lai vent his anger. In the past 50 years, today was probably the best day for Bai Lai. Bai Lai's legs were also working again, and no one dared to threaten him at this moment, because Sumo had a bright future and would definitely reach nascent soul. Bai Lai, I have wine here. Take it, old Bai, from now on. You don't need to worry about my cave. Another uproar. Cough, cough. The black-robed cultivator who was in charge of the mission pavilion frowned slightly and released a foundation establishment pressure. Instantly, the entire mission pavilion became silent once again. Greetings, Martial Uncle Su. Those who knew him and those who didn't immediately reacted and knelt down. The outer sect disciples didn't have a clear master yet, so they all called the foundation establishment Martial Uncle. There was a huge difference in quality between Qi cultivation and foundation establishment, and it was almost insurmountable. Just now, if everything wasn't so sudden, she would have greeted the black-robed cultivator first. At that moment, Sumo also knelt down. At the same time, she felt that the thin and tall man in front of her was like a long river with endless pressure that couldn't be crossed. Chapter 30. It was quiet in front of the mission pavilion. Get up. The middle stage foundation establishment cultivator said in a low voice, as if dissatisfied with the noise just now. The middle stage foundation establishment cultivator helped Sumo up. At the same time, he returned to his normal state and retracted his aura. Martial niece Su, congratulations on successfully nurturing your foundation. You're now a third-stage Qi refinement cultivator. Thank you, Martial Uncle. Sumo bowed. The middle-aged cultivator took out 50 spirit stones from his storage bag and handed them to Sumo. He said with a smile, Martial niece Su, you're already in the third-stage Qi refinement realm, so you must have nurtured your foundation for some time. These 10 spirit stones are your monthly income. I'll give you 2 months' income based on the third-stage Qi refinement realm. In less than 5 months, you've already reached the third-stage Qi refinement realm. As for the other 40 spiritual stones, consider it my encouragement and support for you. However, you must remember that the path of cultivation is long. Don't waste your talent and waste your time. The black-robed man said the last sentence with sincerity. This was because he had seen too many talented cultivators who eventually became mediocre. The path of cultivation is long. Don't waste your talent and waste your time. The black-robed cultivator's words shocked Sumo, but at the same time, warmed her heart. This was because only Senior Brother Huang and Senior Brother Deng had said similar words. Sumo knew that they were good advice. Thank you, Senior Brother. Sumo took the spirit stones from the black-robed cultivator with both hands. Sumo will not disappoint Martial Uncle's warning today. I'll work hard on my cultivation. The skinny cultivator nodded with a smile. Less than 5 months on the mountain, and you're already in the third-stage Qi refinement realm. You're the first in the history of the 5 Wheels immortal realm. I'll report this to the inner sect. In less than 3 days, the sect will definitely reward you. Thank you, Martial Uncle. Sumo thanked him again and said apologetically, Sumo hasn't been here for long. May I know your name? 5 Wheels Wind Wheel Sect. Mid-Stage Foundation Establishment Su Yike. The skinny cultivator replied solemnly, I hope Martial niece Su can enter the inner sect as soon as possible. Greetings again, Martial Uncle Su. I will definitely cultivate diligently. Sumo bowed again. Su Yike smiled, but in his heart, he let out a long sigh. If such a disciple could choose the Windwheel faction in the future, then our Windwheel bloodline might be able to raise our heads in the sect. The Windwheel faction would no longer be a joke in the inner sanctum. Sigh that I, Windmill, have no almighty ability. Otherwise, why would I, a dignified middle-level foundation-building cultivator, be in charge of small Yongjin Peak Mission Pavilion? No one knew what Su Yike was thinking. After exchanging a few more words with Su Mo, he floated away. A mid-level foundation establishment cultivator, even if he was in dire straits, could easily sweep across Yongjin Peak. Even in the inner sect, he would be a pillar of strength. Today, if not for Sumo's special immortal root, Su Yike would not have appeared. Junior Brother Su, would you like to choose another mission? The moment Su Yike left, the mission pavilion returned to its original state. At this moment, Sumo was still in first place. If he wasn't done, the others could only wait. The 2 LV5 Qi refining cultivators in the mission pavilion could only remind Sumo. After experiencing everything just now, Sumo obtained another 50 spirit stones, so she didn't deliberately choose a mission. Instead, she pointed at a black jade slip that was hanging high up in the cave abode. I'll choose that mission. Sumo said. The 2 LV5 Qi refining disciples hesitated. Junior Brother Su, this mission doesn't seem very good. You should choose another one. One of them said. Sumo was stunned. Why? What's wrong with that mission? What problem? Hee. The other LV5 Qi refining disciples said. However, those who accepted that mission before didn't complete it. It doesn't seem very good. That jade slip has been hanging for a long time. It's always been taken away and sent back. Actually, these 2 Qi refining disciples didn't know what mission each jade slip was. This was because many of the missions here were issued by inner sect disciples and even some elders. Only the person who accepted the mission could activate the mission and receive the reward. Many of the rewards were directly sent to the sect's jade slip. Oh, thank you for reminding me. I'll choose that mission. If I can't complete it, there won't be any punishment, right? Sumo said. No. The 2 LV4 Qi refining disciples laughed. Good. This one, Sumo confirmed. The 2 LV5 chi refining disciples didn't say much and directly took the jade slip. Sumo didn't open it first. Instead, she directly threw it into her storage bag and cupped her hands at everyone present. The expressions of the cultivators present had already changed. Most of them cupped their hands and said goodbye. Turning around, Sumo walked down Yongjin Peak. It was strange. When Sumo came, he was dressed in rags. Everyone looked at him with disdain and hid far away. However, when he returned, he was still dressed the same, but everyone felt that Sumo was unconventional and extraordinary. After that, there were even some young cultivators who hadn't grown up yet. They also dressed in rags on purpose. Some even tore their white robes to make them look like beggars. Sumo unexpectedly led the trend of Yongjin Peak. In the end, the inner core formation stage elder who was in charge of Yongjin Peak had to order that no one was allowed to stain the white robes of the young cultivators. Otherwise, they would be punished according to the sect rules. Sumo became famous with one punch. From then on, everyone in Yongjin Peak knew about Sumo. In the mountain cave, Sumo and Bai Lai were drinking to their heart's content. Sumo didn't know where Bai Lai got the wine and spiritual food, but there was a lot of it. The wine actually carried some spiritual chi, unlike the ordinary wine from last time. It was probably given by some chi refining cultivators in Yongjin Peak. In less than 5 months, Sumo reached LV3 chi refining and became famous in Yongjin Peak. The cultivators who usually bullied Bai Lai only hoped that Bai Lai would let bygones be bygones in the future. Therefore, Bai Lai didn't hold back. He didn't care about the bygones and accepted the gifts first. In the past 50 years, Bai Lai had never been this happy. Little Sue, you are so domineering today. Ha ha. Little Sue, my 200 spirit stones weren't for nothing. I, Bai Lai, have a friend like you. It's worth it. The two of them toasted each other. Bai Lai was already drunk, but he still kept drinking. Sumo didn't stop him. He understood Bai Lai's feelings. It's rare to get drunk in life, so he let Bai Lai drink. Sumo didn't restrain himself either. He just poured the wine into the copper bowl. Although the wine wasn't as good as the golden arowana soup, it was close. He could drink and cultivate at the same time, so why not? Sumo's heart was also carefree. He didn't even know how many years it had been since he was this happy. Let's fight for our dignity. Sumo secretly warned himself. I must keep this up and keep fighting. Chi refining, foundation establishment, core formation, nascent soul. The road to immortality is endless and full of hardships. But if you want to live well and not be controlled by others, you must never stop. Otherwise, it goes without saying that you'll always live under someone else's nose. Lao Xuan 2, beggars, wait for me, Sumo, to return to Peach Blossom Town. Huh. Sumo was also drunk and started talking nonsense. They ate a lot of spiritual food and drank 2 jars of immortal wine. Chapter 31. By the time Sumo woke up, there was no one in the cave. He didn't know where Bai Lai went. He drank to his heart's content this time. Sumo didn't know how long he slept. Looking at his danci, he was even more delighted, because his 3rd round of water halo was already very clear. The 3rd stage of chi refining, 1 step further. A feast of spirit food was better than half a month of hard cultivation. Sumo couldn't help but take out the copper bowl again and repeatedly rubbed it, cherishing it. It's still better to be a beggar. Sumo sighed in his heart. Then he patted his storage pouch and took out the 50 spirit stones that Su Yike gave him. There were still 100 spirit stones in the storage pouch. With the new 50 spirit stones, Sumo already had a plan. He would use them to strengthen the copper bowl. He arranged the 50 spirit stones one by one and threw them into the copper bowl one by one. The first one was thrown in, and the bottom of the bowl emitted wisps of white gas. When Sumo took it out again, the spirit stone had already lost its spiritual energy. When he looked at the dark lines at the bottom of the bowl again, they were a little clearer. Sumo didn't hesitate anymore and threw the 50 spirit stones into the copper bowl one by one. After a while, when Sumo took out the first 10 or so spirit stones, there was no more spiritual energy. When Sumo took out the 10 or so spirit stones in the middle, he felt that those spirit stones had already softened. When the last 15 spirit stones were thrown in, they turned into ashes, and even the ashes disappeared. Sumo was secretly surprised that the copper bowl's ability to absorb spirit stones seemed to be constantly improving. After throwing in the 50 spirit stones, Sumo looked at the bottom of the copper bowl again. There were actually 7 clear dark lines, and even the old copper bowl had a faint luster. The copper bowl's evolution was very obvious. Sumo immediately went to the cave and took out a small immortal fruit and put it in the copper bowl. The immortal fruit was called Fire Dragon, and it was only the size of an egg. It looked like a small pomegranate. Its skin was purplish red, and its flesh was fragrant and sweet. It was a low-grade spirit food that was comparable to the golden arowana. When Bai Lai went to the Yongjin Peak to beg for spiritual food, he put in a lot of good words to get them, but he only gave him 5 of them. According to Bai Lai, he had helped out in Yongjin Peak's kitchen for 5 days in order to obtain these 5 immortal fruits. Sumo couldn't bear to eat it. Chi-Chi, after the fire dragon fruit was thrown in, the bottom of the copper bowl emitted wisps of white gas. Under the effect of the copper bowl, the immortal fruit actually began to change shape. It continued to soften and finally became a bowl of dark red fruit juice. Sumo was slightly taken aback. It seemed that the copper bowl's abilities had improved a lot. Sumo did not hesitate and directly drank the dragon fruit juice in one gulp. Hiss! The fire dragon fruit juice was like a celestial brew, a dense spiritual energy directly seeped into the heart and spleen. Sumo's limbs and bones seemed to have a natural flow of spiritual energy. This copper bowl actually increased the spiritual energy of the fire dragon immortal fruit by at least 3 to 4 times, far better than the golden arowana soup that day. Sumo gritted his teeth and threw the remaining 4 fire dragon immortal fruits into the copper bowl. In just a few breaths, a bowl of fruit juice with dense spiritual energy was formed. Sumo drank it again, then immediately sat cross-legged and began to breathe. In fact, Sumo had already slept for 3 days and 3 nights, but he didn't know it himself. Now, with the help of this fire dragon immortal fruit juice, he began to cultivate according to the first chapter of Qi training. 2 days passed without a word. On the morning of the 3rd day, Sumo opened his eyes with a smile on his face. Qi training stage 3 peak. Although the water halo of the 4th level of Qi training hasn't formed yet, it's already faintly turning into a circle. It seems that not long after, Sumo will be a Qi training stage for cultivator. One must know that this is a stage that a normal cultivator may not even reach in 3 to 4 years. If only I could get a higher level spiritual food. Sumo muttered to himself. At this time, Bai Lai entered the cave. Hey, you're awake? Today is the 5th day. Bai Lai's spirit is very good. He feels like he's put on weight. Little Su, your alcohol tolerance is too bad. 1 drink and you'll be drunk for 3 to 4 days. This is the first time I've seen someone like you. In the future, I'll have to be careful when I ask you to drink. Hee. When the alcohol is good, I'll get drunk. Sumo, of course, can't say that his body was filled with spiritual energy, and then he slept to cultivate. Bai Lai was just joking. He actually thought that Sumo's cultivation was very hard, and he slept for 3 to 4 days. It's good that he's awake. He doesn't understand anything else. Hey, all right, little Su, quickly take a look at your sex jade scroll. I heard that the inner sect knew that you reached Qi training stage 3 in 5 months, so they gave you a big reward a day ago. Everyone in Yongjin Peak is talking about this. Quickly take a look at what's inside. When Sumo heard that, she hurriedly took out the white sect jade scroll. Using her divine sense, she couldn't help but be overjoyed. The first was an inner sect spirit grade hall elder's divine sense message. Sumo, it hasn't even been 5 months, and you've already advanced to the 3rd stage. 5 wheels, number 1 in 10,000 years. Congratulations. Special reward, 500 low-grade spirit stones, 5 middle-grade spirit stones. There are also 5 types of heaven, earth, wind, fire, and water talismans, a total of 50 pieces. Qi training pills, 3/4 stage pills. Hope you continue to work hard and enter the inner sect. Sumo's heart trembled. 500 low-grade spirit stones and 5 middle-grade spirit stones. One must know that 1 middle-grade spirit stone can be exchanged for 100 low-grade spirit stones. That is to say, Sumo suddenly has 1,000 spirit stones. Spirit Grade Hall is the inner treasury of 5 wheels. This sect reward is a windfall for a chi training cultivator. However, what surprised Sumo was yet to come. Because, apart from this divine sense message that represented the sect, there were actually 3 other divine sense messages in his jade scroll. Fire Wheel Hall Deacon. Luan Hall, when Sumo advanced to the 3rd stage of chi training, congratulations. Reward: 200 low-grade spirit stones, 2 middle-grade spirit stones. In addition, there were 2 chi refining level 4 pills. Earth Wheel Hall Deacon. Dilun Hall, when Sumo advanced to the 3rd stage of chi training, congratulations. Reward: 300 low-grade spirit stones, 3 middle-grade spirit stones. In addition, there were 3 4th-tier chi refining pills. Heaven Wheel Hall Deacon. Tianlin Hall, when Sumo advanced to the 3rd stage of chi training, congratulations. Reward: 500 low-grade spirit stones, 5 middle-grade spirit stones. In addition, there were 5 4th-tier chi refining pills and 50 talismans. A 5-wheel flying ship. This. Originally, when Sumo saw the sect's reward, he was ecstatic. However, the Fire Wheel, Earth Wheel, and Heaven Wheel Hall all had different responses, which confused him. Especially when the Tian Luan Hall's reward was actually more than the 5-wheel Spirit Grade Halls. However, the Wind Wheel and Water Wheel Hall didn't have any response. This was illogical. Bai Lai saw the change in Sumo's expression and thought that there was no reward, so he asked, "What's wrong? Little Su, there's no reward from the sect?" Sumo quickly regained his composure. "What? The reward is too much. The sect rewarded me with 1,000 spirit stones, talismans, and pills. I was a bit scared." Sumo tried to cover it up. He didn't tell Bai Lai about the other 3 halls' rewards. We haven't seen the world. 5 Wheels has been around for 30,000 years. What they gave you is not even a drop in the bucket." Bai Lai looked like he understood everything. Chapter 32. Bai Lai sat for a while. He didn't want to disturb Sumo's cultivation, so he said goodbye and left. In fact, he happily went to Yongjin Peak to show off. These few days, Bai Lai's status on Yongjin Peak had greatly improved. It couldn't be said that everyone was respectful to him, but there were more polite and smiling faces. Things like being casually beaten and scolded in the past were basically gone. Sumo was alone in the cave abode. There were suddenly so many things in the jade slip. For a moment, he was at a loss of what to do. While he was pondering, he suddenly heard someone shouting outside the cave. Junior Brother Su, are you in the cave abode?" When Sumo heard that it seemed to be Zhao Yunxing's voice, he immediately opened the cave abode. When he came out, he saw that it was indeed Zhao Yunxing. However, Zhao Yunxing didn't wear a gray robe. Instead, he changed into a brocade robe, which made him look more spirited. "I didn't expect Senior Brother Zhao to come. Sorry for not going out to greet you." Sumo cupped his hands and smiled. "I wonder when Senior Brother Zhao came out of seclusion. It seems that you have already advanced to the 7th level of Qi refinement?" Junior Brother Su, Zhao Yunxing was in high spirits. When he saw Sumo, he was extremely affectionate. "I just came out of seclusion for 3 days. I heard about Junior Brother's matter, so I specially came to visit and bid farewell." "Oh." Sumo hurriedly led Zhao Yunxing into the cave abode. Seeing that Zhao Yunxing took off his gray robe, she guessed most of it. Senior Brother Zhao came out of seclusion. "Did you enter the inner court as you wished?" "Huh." Zhao Yunxing laughed and followed Sumo into the cave abode. "Junior Brother Su, you guessed correctly." "Then, congratulations, Senior Brother Zhao." Sumo hadn't left the cave abode for a few days, so she really didn't know the situation. "The day before yesterday, I passed the inner sanctum examination and entered the Tian Lun lineage as I wished." Zhao Yunxing was in high spirits. That day, Senior Sister Mu was the examiner, and the questions she gave were not difficult at all. The reason why I was able to enter the Tianlin lineage smoothly must have something to do with Junior Brother Su's good words in front of Senior Sister Mu. Therefore, I came to visit Junior Brother Su today. Senior Brother Zhao is too polite. Sumo feigned a reserved smile. Actually, he had seen Mu Jinghong before, but he didn't remember Zhao Yunqing at all. However, he naturally couldn't say it out loud. Actually, Zhao Yunqing wasn't sure whether Sumo had spoken to him or not. In any case, Mu Jinghong didn't make things difficult for him. Furthermore, when he came out his closed-door training, he heard that Sumo had beaten up Shen Lang and that she was already in the third stage of qi refining. He couldn't help but be shocked. If it was said that he had befriended Sumo because he was afraid of Mu Jinghong, then today, a person who had reached the third stage of the qi training realm after only 5 months on a mountain was worth befriending. Today, he used the reason of gratitude to further strengthen his relationship with Sumo. Zhao Yunqing secretly observed Sumo and saw that her cultivation was indeed in the third stage of qi refining realm. She had even reached the peak. He felt that it was the right decision not to become enemies with Sumo. Then I won't say any polite words to Junior Brother Su. As he spoke, Zhao Yunqing took out a storage bag. Junior Brother Su, I will pass the 5 Wheels Holy Palace in the afternoon and then officially enter the Tianlun Mountain to cultivate. There are some miscellaneous items in this storage bag. They're all little playthings that I used to have, and some were even given to me by my uncle. I heard that you have already reached the third stage of qi refining realm, and your future is limitless. Currently, these items might be of some use to you, so I'll give them to you. I hope you won't mind. Thank you, Senior Brother Zhao. Sumo didn't decline and didn't immediately look at what it was. After all, his current foundation was still too weak. A little more would be another layer of protection. Seeing that Sumo didn't decline, Zhao Yunqing felt that Sumo wasn't a pretentious person. Junior Brother Su, you reached the third stage of qi refining realm in 5 months. Your talent is far better than mine. Maybe in less than a year, you can enter the inner sect. At that time, you'll also choose the Tianlun sect. We brothers will be together day and night. Isn't that great? When Zhao Yunqing mentioned the Tianlun sect again, Sumo happened to have a question in her heart. Senior Brother Zhao, I haven't been here for long. I really don't know the difference between the 5 wheels of the inner sect. Zhao Yunqing smiled proudly. Since Junior Brother Su asked, then I'll show off a little. Although I don't know much, I can explain it briefly. Everyone knows that the 5 wheels is divided into the 5 branches of heaven: earth, fire, water, and wind. On the surface, there is no difference, but in fact, the branch you choose to cultivate will make a huge difference. Oh, Sumo listened attentively, feeling surprised. Actually, I heard from my uncle. There's actually no one else in the cave, but Zhao Yunqing still lowered his voice and deliberately got closer to Sumo. Legend has it that the branches of the 5 wheels were originally on equal footing. Each of them had their own merits. There were even cultivators above the nascent soul realm. However, 10,000 years ago, there was an accident in the sect, and many cultivators fell. As for what exactly had happened, no one could say for sure now, or someone deliberately sealed that part of history. Since then, the Tianlun sect gradually surpassed the other 4 branches. The current first seat of the Tianlun sect is said to be at the peak of the late stage of core formation and will soon reach the nascent soul realm. Maybe he will be able to compete with the nascent soul ancestors on the ancestral spirit peak. The first seats of the other branches are at most in the late stage of core formation. Most of them are in the middle stage. The Earthluan sect is relatively strong among the other 4 branches, but still can't compete with the Tianlun sect. The Fireluan sect is wise to protect themselves and relies on the Tianlun mountain. On the other hand, the Waterluan sect is mostly female cultivators. The Windluan sect is the most miserable. They have the least number of people and haven't had any disciples to choose from for many years. Now, those disciples are either crazy or in dire straits. Therefore, the Windluan sect can be said to exist in name only. According to the rumors among the inner sect disciples, in a few hundred years, the Five Wheels will have to change its name to the Tianlun sect. Nowadays, most of the disciples who enter the inner sect are aiming for the Tianlun sect because the Tianlun sect has all kinds of cultivation resources. However, whether or not you can be chosen by the Tianlun sect depends on your luck. As for the other four branches, you can only choose the remaining ones. For example, although Senior Marshal Sister Mu is already the head disciple, she is also from the Tianlun sect. Therefore, the Tianlun sect is the mainstay of the Five Wheels. At this point, Zhao Yunxing smiled and patted Sumo's shoulder. Of course, these things have nothing to do with us. Junior Marshal Brother Su, you will definitely enter the Tianlun Mountain. Thanks for Senior Marshal Brother Zhao's auspicious words. After listening to the secret history of the Five Wheels from Zhao Yunxing, Sumo couldn't help but think that there were a lot of internal problems in the Five Wheels. Looking at it this way, the rewards in the Jade Slip were easy to understand. The sect's rewards were normal. The other three sects all had the intention to rope her in, but the Tianlun sect was rich and overbearing, so the rewards were the most generous. All right, Zhao Yunxing said again, Junior Marshal Brother Su, you reached the 3rd level of Qi refining in 5 months. The sect will definitely reward you in the Jade Slip. You can directly go to the Mission Pavilion on the Yongjin Peak to exchange for it. Thank you, Senior Marshal Brother Zhao, for telling me. Sumo was still thinking about how to receive the rewards in the Jade Slip. Zhao Yunxing chatted for a while. Since his purpose for coming here has been achieved, he got up and said his goodbyes. Sumo sent him out of the cave, and the two of them cupped their hands to bid farewell. Zhao Yunxing actually lifted his leg and flew with the wind. At the 7th level of Qi refining, one could fly with the wind. Sumo looked at Zhao Yunxing's disappearing figure and couldn't help but feel a burst of envy. Chapter 33. After sending off Zhao Yunxing, Sumo took out the storage pouch that Zhao Yunxing gave her. There were a lot of things inside, but there were no spiritual stones. There were some small things that Sumo still needed to figure out what they were for. There were 3 celestial swords, which were of average quality and belonged to the lowest class of magic weapons. However, it was suitable for Sumo to use now. Back then, didn't Liu Yichong use an immortal sword to beat Sumo to the point where he couldn't fight back? Other than that, there were 7 fire rotational pills. The fire rotational pill was a secret recipe of the fire sect. It was called the fire rotational pill, but it was not meant for consumption. Instead, it was a hidden weapon. It was very powerful. 1 fire rotational pill was enough to kill a defenseless level 5 cultivator. It was much more powerful than the fire rotational talisman. To Sumo, the 7 fire rotational pills were good treasures. She guessed that Zhao Yunxing's fire rotational pills were given to him by his uncle. With a magic weapon like this, Sumo could even fight against a level 5 cultivator. Then, Sumo remembered the black jade scroll that she received. She took it out to check. Kill Heart Cliff, get 1,000 safflower. 1 stalk of 1,000 safflower, 100 low-grade spiritual stones. 10 stalks of 1,000 safflower, 1 cultivation breakthrough pill. The Jade Scroll's description was very simple. However, Sumo wasn't sure what kind of place the Kill Heart Cliff was. However, Sumo knew a little about the 1,000 safflower. It was a mid-grade spiritual flower. Its value is average, but it was essential for making many high-class pills. This was because it had the effect of purifying pill toxins. However, this flower was relatively difficult to harvest as it grew in a harsh environment. It was often guarded by strange beasts. However, 1 stalk of 1,000 safflower, 100 spiritual stones, was considered a high price. 10 stalks of 1,000 safflower, 1 cultivation breakthrough pill. This made Sumo's heart palpitate. This was because the cultivation breakthrough pill was a top-class pill for cultivators below the 7th level of Qi training. This was because 1 cultivation breaking dan was enough for a LV6 Qi cultivation to reach LV7 Qi cultivation. In other words, if Sumo was in the 6th stage of chi refining, she would only need one chi refining pill to enter the inner sect. Usually, only core formation realm cultivators could concoct such a pill, and it consumed a lot of energy. It could be said that the loss outweighed the gain. Thus, how many core formation cultivators would concoct this kind of medicinal pill that was completely useless to them and would consume a lot of energy? Unless it was a true descendant of the clan or a direct disciple who needed it, they would reluctantly refine it. Therefore, a cultivation enhancement pill was extremely hard to come by. 1,000 red flower for 100 spirit stones. 10,000 safflower flowers. 1 cultivation breaking pill. The value of this mission was quite high, but the difficulty seemed to be average. The beasts guarding the 1,000 safflower flowers were usually not stronger than a cultivator at the 5th rank of chi refining. However, why did the 2 senior brothers in the 5th level of the chi refining realm say that many people didn't complete the mission? Sumo pondered. There must be a reason for this. Could it be that the exterminating heart cliff is a forbidden place? Sumo didn't think too much about it. He wasn't in a rush for this mission, so he had to play it safe. Thinking about this, Sumo left the Immortals Cave and headed to Yongjin Peak first. There were many things in the Jade Slip, especially the Spirit Stones, which Sumo urgently needed. Whether it was the evolving Copper Bowl or the acceleration of cultivation, Sumo needed them all. Along the way, Sumo arrived at the Pavilion of Missions in Yongjin Peak without a word. This time, there weren't many people in front of the Pavilion of Missions. As soon as Sumo arrived at the Pavilion of Missions, a person walked out. It was Su Yike, an intermediate-level foundation building cultivator from the Windwheel clan. Greetings, Martial Uncle Su. Sumo had a good impression of Su Yike. Martial niece Su, you're finally here. I've been waiting for you for 2 days. Su Yike smiled. Oh, Sumo was a little surprised. What's the matter? Martial Uncle has been waiting for me? Hee hee. Su Yike laughed. It's nothing urgent. It's just that I expected you to exchange for the sect's reward within these 2 days. Oh, indeed. Sumo smiled, then took out the sect's jade slip and handed it to Su Yike. Sumo hasn't been here for long, so I'm short of money. The sect's reward is exactly what I need. Martial Uncle Su, please don't laugh at me. Of course, Su Yike understood and didn't say much. He took the jade slip and handed it to the 2 level 5 Chi refinement cultivators. One of the 2 level 5 Chi refinement cultivators used an array to check the jade slip. The other one took the jade slip, then took out a storage bag and handed it to Su Yike. The process was simple and smooth. It seemed like this was a common thing. Su Yike then passed it to Sumo. The things are all inside. Sumo took the storage bag and scanned it with her divine sense. Nothing was missing, so she thanked him again. Then, Su Yike pulled Sumo to the side and asked slowly, Sumo, I heard from Wu Fei and Wu Long that you accepted the Black Jade Slips mission, right? Huh? Sumo was slightly stunned. At the same time, she also knew the names of the 2 level 5 Chi refinement cultivators. She then nodded and said, Yes, what's wrong with it? Martial Uncle Su. Actually, there's nothing wrong with it. Su Yike smiled faintly, but paused for a moment. It's just that it's a rather special black jade slip. It's been hanging for many years, but it seems that every disciple who accepted it didn't complete the mission. Moreover, after they came back, they didn't want to say anything, but their cultivation began to increase slowly. There was even a disciple who suddenly died 3 years after coming back. The cause of death is unknown. Sumo couldn't help but frown. If that's the case, didn't the sect investigate it? Do a search in the sect? Su Yike couldn't help but sneer twice and then said, Everyone in the 5 wheels is very busy. What does the life and death of a few Chi refinement disciples matter? Sumo was silent. From Su Yike's tone, she heard a trace of dissatisfaction and helplessness. Of course, that could be just a coincidence. Su Yike happily took a deep breath and said, I'm just reminding you that if you can't complete the mission, don't force it. Be wise and take care of yourself. Don't take any risks. Thank you, Martial Uncle Su. Sumo said, and then asked, "Speaking of the mission, I happen to have something to ask Martial Uncle." "What is it?" "Martial Uncle, do you know about Punishing Heart Cliff?" Sumo said, "Punishing Heart Cliff." Suyike looked at Sumo and said, "Could it be that the mission is to go to Punishing Heart Cliff?" "That's right." Sumo didn't hide it. Since everything was strange, she might as well say it directly. Punishing Heart Cliff to obtain 1,000 safflower is the mission. 1,000 safflower, 100 spirit stones. 10,000 safflower, 1 cultivation breaking pill. Oh, Suyike seemed to be stunned. He hesitated for a moment, but didn't say anything. Then, Suyike took out a jade scroll from his storage bag and handed it to Sumo. "Sumo, this mission doesn't seem difficult, but it's best to be careful. The Executioner's Heart Cliff is a long way away. It's 50,000 kilometers northwest of the Five Wheels, and it's almost at the border of the Five Wheels influence. You can use the teleportation formation on Yongjin Peak to reach the Northwest Sect formation before heading to the Punishing Heart Cliff. I have a map here for you. At the same time, there's also a talisman of mine in the Jade Slip. It can block an initial stage foundation establishment attack or attack the opponent. Keep it, it might be useful. At the same time, I suggest that if you have enough cultivation resources, I should wait until I reach the 5th stage of chi refining before I go on a mission. It's safer that way." Sumo didn't expect Suyike to give her such a big gift. He even gave her an earnest instruction. She hurriedly received it with both hands. "Thank you, Martial Uncle Su. Sumo, will remember your words." Suyike smiled desolately. "My Windwheel faction lacks manpower and resources, so we're looked down upon by the other Four Wheels. However, the one thing we don't lack is friendship. Sumo, take care." After saying that, Suyike didn't say anything else and floated away. Sumo watched Suyike walk away and put away the jade scroll. She couldn't help but sigh in her heart. She understood that the reason why Suyike helped her was probably because he wanted her to choose the Windwheel faction in the future. Chapter 34. After Sumo left the mission pavilion, she didn't immediately return to her cave at the mountain gate. Instead, she directly went to another place on Yongjin Peak, Jubao Pavilion. Jubao Pavilion was the cave for exchanging items on Yongjin Peak. Disciples on Yongjin Peak could use spirit stones to exchange for the cultivation items they needed. They could also use their own items to exchange for spirit stones. Its main purpose was to provide various conveniences for the disciples. Sumo came here to exchange for some mid-grade spiritual food. This way, he could use the copper bowl to greatly increase his cultivation speed. Jubao Pavilion was also managed by 2 cultivators at the 4th level of Qi training. The one in charge was an inner disciple at the peak of the 9th level of Qi training. Unfortunately, he was often absent. From this, it could be seen that Windmill Suyike, a Foundation Establishment intermediate stage cultivator, was actually in charge of the Yongjin Peaks Mission Pavilion. Inside Jubao Pavilion, there were all kinds of items. Every item was protected by a small formation, so it couldn't be taken casually. Those heavenly treasures and magic treasures were actually of ordinary levels. However, they dazzled Sumo, who was at the Qi training stage. Senior Martial Brother Su. Just as Sumo was pondering what to buy, a pleasant voice was suddenly heard. Sumo turned around and saw 2 cultivators, one male and one female, walking out from the inner room of Jubao Pavilion. The female cultivator was wearing an ordinary gray robe. However, she was beautiful like a fairy. She was one of the 4 child cultivators of Yongjin Peak, Xiaochuya. However, even though she had taken off her child cultivator robe and changed into a gray robe, it still couldn't hide her figure and beauty. She was indeed a woman who could make others forget about her appearance. Moreover, Xiaochuya was already at the peak of the 2nd level of Qi training. This speed was enough to prove that Xiaochuya was a genius of the Five Wheels generation. At this moment, Chun Dong, who was also wearing a gray robe, stood beside her. Sumo couldn't help but admire Chun Dong's social skills. He could mix with anyone. At this moment, there was another young cultivator. That male cultivator didn't wear a gray robe. Instead, he wore a green robe. He stood with his hands clasped behind his back. He had an extraordinary bearing and was cultured and refined. He wasn't wearing a gray robe. Could he be an inner disciple? Hello, junior sister Xiao. It was Xiao Qia who greeted Sumo just now, so Sumo treated her politely. As for Qindong, he didn't even look at him. However, Qindong did not mind at all. Instead, he smiled and cupped his fists at Sumo, making it seem as if Sumo did not know etiquette. Senior brother Su, long time no see. Have you come to the treasure-gathering pavilion to choose natural treasures as well? Or have you chosen a few magic artifacts and magic treasures? Xiao Qi's tone was calm and warm, causing others to feel extremely comfortable. Yes, I didn't expect to meet junior sister Xiao here. I'm here to exchange for some immortal food, Sumo said politely. Senior brother Su, this is the person in charge of the treasure-gathering pavilion, the inner court senior brother Yang. If there's anything you need, you can ask senior brother Yang to introduce us. Xiao Qia had the intention to introduce Sumo to that young cultivator. So she said to that cultivator, Senior brother Yang, this is the Sumo that I mentioned to you before. Oh, actually, that young cultivator had already guessed Sumo's identity, for no other reason. On Yangjin Peak, the only one dressed like a beggar was Sumo. At this moment, Xiao Qia introduced. That young cultivator cupped his fists at Sumo and said with a smile, Firewall lineage, Yang Xiao. I've long heard of junior brother Su's great name. You've been on the mountain for 5 months, and you're already at the 3rd level of Qi refinement. Seeing you today, you really live up to your reputation. Sumo hurriedly bowed in return and said, I was just lucky. Sumo greets senior brother Yang. The inner court and the outer court could be said to be heaven and earth. That Yang Xiao was the person in charge of the treasure-gathering pavilion, which meant he was at the 9th level of Qi refinement. Who knew when he would become a foundation establishment cultivator? Since he was polite, Sumo naturally had to be even more polite, because the gap between their levels was really big. One had to know that in the entire 5 wheels, there weren't many people like Su Yike. In the eyes of a foundation establishment cultivator, Qi refinement was nothing. Junior brother Su, whatever you need, don't hesitate to ask, Yang Xiao said with a smile. Although everything in this treasure-gathering pavilion belongs to the sect, there are many rules. If junior brother Su needs anything, I'll definitely give you the best within the scope of my authority. Senior brother Yang is a sincere and righteous person. Senior brother Su doesn't have to be so polite, Xiao Qia said to Sumo. When Sumo heard that, he couldn't help but smile. In that case, thank you, junior sister Xiao, senior brother Yang. He understood in his heart that Yang Xiao definitely spoke because of Xiao Qia. As for why Xiao Qia wanted to help him, he wasn't very clear. Could it be that she took a fancy to him? Sumo laughed in his heart. However, this was a reason that even he himself didn't believe. On the contrary, he always thought Xiao Qia wasn't a simple woman. Although there was no basis, Sumo had this feeling from the first time he saw Xiao Qia. Senior brother Yang, I came here to exchange for some good and cheap mid-grade spiritual food. Sumo didn't think too deeply about it. In any case, he didn't have to pay anything right now. Mid-grade spiritual food? When Yang Xiao heard that, he looked as if he had a card up his sleeve. Junior brother Su, in my pavilion, there are a total of 237 types of mid-grade spiritual food. Among them, 99 types of birds and beasts, 138 types of immortal herbs, and spirit flowers. If junior brother Su wants to refine pills, using birds and beasts is more potent, but the price is higher. Even an ordinary golden fire cicada costs 200 low-grade spirit stones. However, if you want to use it yourself to aid your cultivation, I suggest using immortal herbs and spirit flowers. Here I have lilac fruit, 8 red flower, destitute dragon grass, and purple auspicious root, which are all mid-grade spiritual food. Although their spiritual power isn't as good as the golden fire cicada, they are pure and without loss. Each of them costs only 60 to 70 spirit stones, which can be said to be good and cheap. Sumo listened and nodded. He could still accept the price of 50 to 60 spirit stones, but he didn't need to consider the price of 200 spirit stones. After all, he didn't have many spirit stones. At the same time, he thought of something and couldn't help but ask Senior Brother Yang, "Does our treasure pavilion have 1,000 safflower? 1,000 safflower?" Yang Xiao shook his head. Although 1,000 safflower isn't expensive, it's basically priceless. Generally, 8 red flower is used to purify poison in alchemy. I buy 1,000 safflower all year round. One plant costs 90 spirit stones, and 100 is negotiable. Unfortunately, I can't get any. Junior Brother Su, do you have 1,000 safflower? Yang Xiao couldn't help but ask. If only I had 1,000 safflower, Sumo said with a smile. I've only heard of this flower, so I'm just asking. Senior Brother Yang, please give me 5 lilac fruits and 5 purple auspicious roots. Sumo thought that if everything went well, these spiritual food should be able to help her advance a lot after being blessed by the copper bowl. Okay. Yang Xiao directly waved his hand, and the gray-robed cultivator, who was at the 4th level of Qi refinement, directly fetched the things that Sumo needed. Lilac fruit looked like a plum, but its whole body was green. Purple auspicious root looked like an old ginseng, but it was purple. Junior Brother Su, it's our first time meeting, and with Junior Sister Zhao's introduction. These 10 types of spiritual food will cost you a total of 500 spirit stones. How about it? This is also my highest authority. Yang Xiao's words were not false. One must know that the bottom price of each item was strictly regulated by the 5 wheels. Thank you, Senior Brother Yang, Junior Sister Xiao. Sumo did not say much. She paid 500 spirit stones, took the items, and left. After Sumo left, Yang Xiao asked Xiao Chia, Junior Sister Xiao, do you think this person is good? Xiao Chia smiled sweetly and asked, Senior Brother Yang, who wouldn't think highly of him to become a 3rd-level Qi refinement cultivator in 5 months. He was born a beggar, but he can take out 500 spirit stones to exchange for mid-grade spiritual food. The sex reward must be far better than mine. Senior Brother Yang, do you not think highly of him? Huh? Yang Xiao laughed. Junior Sister Xiao, I only think highly of you. I am willing to wait for you at the Firewall Mountain. You must know that in the path of alchemy, the Firewall lineage is far better than the Heavenwall lineage. Junior Sister Xiao, don't waste your talent. Xiao Chuya glanced at Yang Xiao, but her cheeks were slightly red, which made her even more charming. Yang Xiao's heart could not help but sway. However, Xiao Chuya turned her head, and her expression instantly returned to normal. She looked at the direction where Sumo disappeared, and no one knew what she was thinking. As for Qin Dong, who was standing at the side, a cold light flashed in his eyes. Chapter 35. On Yangjin Peak, Sumo descended the mountain and gradually disappeared into the distance. At a corner of the mountain, the figure of a woman appeared. She wore a black dress and had long hair. She was none other than Mu Jinghong, who was known as the breathtaking 3,000 years of white bones. Another cultivator in a black robe appeared in front of Mu Jinghong in a flash. Greetings, Senior Martial Sister Mu. The cultivator in black bowed to Mu Jinghong. However, the cultivator in black was wearing a mask that covered his face. Are you all right? Mu Jinghong asked. Of course I'm fine. The cultivator in black smiled. What can a mere Qi refinement cultivator do to me? However, that Sumo is really a monster. She actually cultivated to this level in 5 months. That punch was really powerful. Good acting. Mu Jinghong nodded, then frowned. Is there no news from Huang Zhe and Deng Feng? No. The cultivator in black said in a deep voice, but they should be fine. His soul lamp has not been extinguished, and there is nothing unusual. But it's been too long. Mu Jinghong said, should I go down a mountain and take a look? The cultivator in black asked. Mu Jinghong shook her head and said, let's wait and see. I have other arrangements for you. What is it? Senior Martial Sister Mu, please instruct me. The cultivator in black said. Su Mo has accepted the mission. It won't be long before he completes it. Once he leaves the cave abode or Yongjin Peak, you have to follow him in secret. If someone tries to harm him, Mu Jinghong paused, and a cold aura emitted from his body. The cultivator in black quickly lowered his head. The coldness made him feel uncomfortable. At that moment, the cultivator in black already knew what Mu Jinghong wanted to say. Kill without mercy. Understood. Don't worry, Senior Marshal Sister Mu. The cultivator in black nodded heavily. Anyone who hurts Sumo will be killed without mercy. Mu Jinghong repeated, then nodded indifferently. Go. Yes. The cultivator in black responded, then bowed deeply and gradually turned into a ball of black light and disappeared. On Yongjin Peak, in another cave abode. The cave was quite large and overflowing with spiritual energy. On Yongjin Peak, it was definitely a top-notch cave abode. At this moment, there was a person sitting in the cave. It was Windmill Su Yike. He was holding 3 ancient coins in his hand. The 3 ancient coins were colorful and emitted a faint glow. It was obvious that they were not ordinary objects at first glance. Ding dang. Su Yike flicked his hand, and the 3 coins fluttered like butterflies. They gently collided in the air and landed on the ground, forming a trigram. Su Yike didn't look happy or sad. He waved his hand, and the 3 coins flew up again. Ding dang. He landed on the ground, and the hexagram appeared again. He repeated this process more than 10 times. Innate divination. This was the unique secret technique of the Windwheel lineage. However, in the current Windwheel lineage, only Su Yike was barely able to deduce this Xiantian divination. Su Yike looked at the divination again and couldn't help but let out a long sigh with an extremely helpless expression. Because he had tried several times, but nothing came out of it. He even felt that his Xiantian divination was playing a joke on him. Because the divination was repeating rhythmically. It was not a normal divination at all. This indicated that it was not divinable. Sumo, it's not divinable. Su Yike smiled bitterly and then muttered to himself, Master, unfortunately, my realm is too low and I can't deduce it. If your soul doesn't dissipate, you must protect Windwheel, founding ancestors' prophecy. Windwheel, 9 revolutions, overturn heaven and earth. Su Yike muttered to himself with a lonely expression. Then, he tried another divination, but the content was different this time. Ding, dang, dang. The ancient coins fell to the ground. Great danger. Su Yike raised his eyebrows. Heart-punishing cliff was actually a place of great danger. However, Su Yike couldn't understand. How could a small heart-punishing cliff be so dangerous? However, there was one thing that he didn't understand. Why was it that every time the disciple who received the Black Jade Scroll had a different mission? Actually, Su Yike had been secretly watching the Black Jade Scroll. Last time, the disciple who carried out the mission definitely didn't go to the heart-punishing cliff. Instead, he went to the opposite direction. The mission wasn't completed, and he didn't say anything after he returned. As for who gave this mission to the inner house, he couldn't find out. Because Su Yike doesn't have the authority to investigate completion-leveled elder missions. I hope everything is fine. If Sumo can't make it through, then she isn't the person I'm looking for. Su Yike sighed deeply and put away the ancient coins. He thought to himself, if only Master was still here, then everything would be different. On the other side, Sumo descended Yongjin Peak and returned to his home. This time he gained a lot. His storage pouch was full. Therefore, he first checked his belongings. 1,000 low-tier spiritual stones, 15 mid-tier spiritual stones, 13 level 4 Dawn, 100 different talismans, and a 5-wheeled sailboat. All of these items were extremely beneficial to Sumo. Spiritual stones needn't be mentioned. Spiritual Dawn can help with training when one is at the 4th level. 13 level 4 Dawn can help a normal level 4 Dawn reach the peak. 5 talismans, both offensive and defensive, can greatly increase Sumo's combat ability. As for the 5-wheeled sailboat, it made Sumo quite happy. Although it required a mid-grade spirit stone to operate the 5 flying sails. With these 5 flying sails, it was equivalent to Su Mo riding on the wind. One has to admit that the Tianlun sect is indeed generous. This 5-wheeled sailboat is definitely worth more than 1,000 spiritual stones. The Tianluan sect should be his first choice to enter the inner house. Sumo pondered. Other than that, he also had 5 lilac fruits and 5 purple auspicious roots. The copper bowl, bamboo pole, and ragged pouch were all there. There was also a white cultivation robe. As for the gray robe, Sumo didn't even bother to collect it. Of course, there are also a few jade tablets. Other than the sect's jade tablets, there were 2. One was the chi training technique that Zhao Yunxing gave him, and the other was the map that Su Yike gave him. Other than that, there were 2 black jade tablets. One was the communication jade tablet that Mu Jinghong gave him, and the other was the mission jade tablet. Actually, this kind of black jade tablet was quite rare. Sumo held it and looked at it for a while. He suddenly remembered why the jade tablet that Mu Jinghong gave him felt a sense of familiarity. Because Bai Lai also had a similar black jade tablet that could allow him to enter the 99 caves of Yangjian Peak. Sumo couldn't help but laugh. It seemed that these black jade tablets were quite special. These were all Sumo's possessions. Even though it wasn't much, it was a world of difference compared to when he was in Peach Blossom Town. After checking everything, Sumo had a plan. He could put the mission aside for now. Didn't Su Yike also suggest that he wait until he reached the 5th level of Qi training? Plus, the things he had should be able to help him reach the peak of the 4th level of Qi training, or even the 5th. That way, he would have more confidence in going to the Punishing Heart Cliff. Plus, once he obtained the cultivation breaking pill, he could directly reach the 7th level of Qi training. He would be able to enter the inner house. Moreover, Sumo also heard that there would be an outer house competition and an inner house selection at the end of today. Chapter 36. Cultivation requires people, resources, and resources. This is true, especially in the initial stage of cultivation. However, talent and hard work are also needed. Sumo is the best example. Within the 5 wheels, there are cultivators with more resources than him. However, talent and hard work are things that others may not have, especially the latter. When he was a child cultivator, he had his own cave, so his cultivation environment is unique. After 5 months on the mountain, Sumo didn't go out except for a few essential trips. This isn't closed-door work, but hard work. He doesn't care about day and night. There's only one thought in Sumo's mind, and that is to cultivate. He has completed the 3rd level of Qi training, and the resources in Sumo's storage bag are enough for him to cultivate for a while. Plus, he doesn't need a new technique before he reaches the 5th level. Currently, Sumo has everything, resources, not to mention his talent and hard work. For 20 days, Sumo didn't leave the cave. During this time, Bai Lai came twice but didn't disturb him. Bai Lai admires Sumo from the bottom of his heart. During his 50 years on the Yangjian Peak, he has seen countless children cultivators, but Sumo is the only one who is so persistent and hardworking. Sometimes, Bai Lai even thinks that Sumo's cultivation is a bit crazy. He doesn't sleep, rest, or eat. In these 20 days, Sumo didn't use any spiritual stones, nor did he take out the copper bowl, nor did he eat anything. If you look at his figure, Sumo seems to be thinner. However, he has been silently practicing the training of Qi training technique. The spiritual energy in his Dan, Si, surged as he tried to break through to the 4th level. The reason why he doesn't use external resources for now is to strengthen his foundation. Sometimes, he is afraid that relying on external resources will affect his cultivation in the future. Currently, Sumo's Dan Si had 3 water halos, and the 3rd water halo was especially dazzling. As long as Sumo thinks about it, he can break through to the 4th level at any time, because he has reached that level. The white light, immortal root in the middle of his Dan Si also changed. The part that was exposed to the Dan Si was slightly longer and looked like a piece of white wax. As for the part hidden in the Dan Si, there were 2 roots that were as thick as a pinky finger. They looked like a pair of human legs stretched out, looking a little strange. As for her own immortal root, Sumo was also not too clear about what was going on. However, he didn't ask anyone else because he was afraid that everything about him would be implicated in the mysterious Silent Death Valley. He wanted to ask Mu Jinghong about it, but he decided against it. Mu Jinghong gave him an unfathomable feeling. He didn't know if this matter involved Silent Death Valley would be a blessing or a curse. Fortunately, the white light immortal root was quite extraordinary. Sumo was like a fish in water when it came to cultivation, so there was no need to think too much about it. In the training of Qi chapter, Sumo had already memorized all of the techniques that cultivators at the third level of the training of Qi could practice. During this period of time, she repeatedly practiced them in order to be able to use them freely. After 20 days of hard work, in order to break through to the third level of the training of Qi, Sumo didn't rely on any external objects. Once she reached the fourth level of the training of Qi, Sumo would be able to try controlling objects. That would be a qualitative leap. Sitting in a lotus position, Sumo's eyes dimmed slightly. Fourth level of the training of Qi. At this moment, Sumo felt that the time was ripe and fully activated the training of Qi. In her Dan Si, the 3 rings of water instantly lit up with endless brilliance, as if it was daytime. Hua! Hua! Boom! The Dan Si shook and the white light swayed. Looking at Sumo's Dan Si again, a clear watermark appeared outside the 3rd ring of water. The entire Dan Si seemed to have grown a little. The 4th level of the training of Qi. Sumo slowly opened his eyes. His gaze was clear and didn't show any signs of fatigue. After half a year, Sumo had gone from a little beggar to the 4th level of the training of Qi. He had completed a qualitative change. He was no longer the little beggar from before. At the 4th level of the training of Qi, Sumo didn't get up because everything was under his control. Sumo took out the copper bowl, and at the same time, he patted his storage pouch and took out another 500 low-grade spiritual stones. This time, he put in a lot of money, because he only had a total of 1,000 low-grade spiritual stones. According to Sumo's habit, the remaining 500 would be used for emergencies. Without any hesitation, Sumo threw the 500 spiritual stones into the copper bowl. In the beginning, Sumo threw in 2 at a time. Then, he threw in 5, then 10 at the same time. This was because when he threw in the first 10, Sumo could see the process of the spiritual stones being absorbed. First, they turned into ashes, then they turned into white smoke. Then, with a flash of white light, the spiritual stones disappeared from the copper bowl. Even though Sumo had flipped over the bowl midway to take a closer look and had clearly seen the changes in it, he was still shaken to the core. The last 100 spiritual stones, Sumo felt that he didn't throw it in himself, but it was sucked in by the bowl. A total of 500 low-grade spiritual stones disappeared in less than a quarter of an hour. Looking at the copper bowl again, there were a total of 49 dark lines on it, and the bluish-yellow luster was faintly visible. It was completely different from the original appearance. Sumo weighed the copper bowl and felt that it seemed to be a little heavier, slightly pressing on his hand. Immediately, Sumo took out the 5 lilac fruits and 5 purple auspicious roots from the storage pouch. As for the lowest spiritual food, such as jade fairy sprout in the cave, even with the help of the copper bowl, it could no longer meet the needs of Sumo, who was at the 4th level of the training of Qi. Those spiritual food could only be used to fill his stomach. First, he threw a lilac fruit into the copper bowl, and Sumo stared at it. Last time, the fire dragon immortal fruit turned into a bowl of fruit juice with abundant spiritual Qi. This time, the copper bowl had been upgraded, so it should be more powerful. But this time, it was Sumo who was stunned, because the lilac fruit in the bowl didn't immediately emit white gas and then melt. Instead, it spun a few times in the bowl, and then slightly trembled in the middle. Buzz, the whole copper bowl seemed to be trembling. But after 3 breaths, an identical lilac fruit suddenly appeared in the bowl. Sumo's eyes lit up. 1 into 2. Then, when the 2 lilac fruits touched each other, they gradually emitted a white gas, and then turned into a fruit juice. Holding the copper bowl, Sumo could feel the thick spiritual Qi in the bowl of fruit juice. 1 into 2. and then continue to strengthen it. Sumo was extremely excited. One lilac fruit cost 50 spiritual stones, and now there was one more out of nowhere. As long as he threw in all the spiritual food he bought, he would be able to recoup his cost. Using 500 spiritual stones to upgrade the copper bowl was definitely worth it. Then, without hesitation, Sumo drank the fruit juice. Hiss! How was that a bowl of fruit juice? It was clearly a bowl of spiritual liquid. Sumo felt a trace of spiritual chi pouring down from his throat, flowing through his limbs, and then returning to his danci. That white immortal root moved slightly, as if it was quite happy. Sumo felt extremely comfortable. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that Sumo felt that this bowl of syrup was comparable to the golden arowana soup he had drunk earlier. The lilac fruit was far better than the golden arowana soup, and the copper bowl was upgraded. Sumo was pleasantly surprised. This effect was better than he had expected. He didn't throw in the lilac fruit immediately, but directly meditated and closed his eyes to cultivate. Chapter 37. For 2 whole months, Sumo used the copper bowl to refine the 5 lilac fruits and the purple auspicious root to aid his cultivation. The purple auspicious root was the same as the lilac fruits. As soon as it was put into the bowl, it would split into 2 and then turn into fruit juice. In other words, under the effect of the copper bowl, the spirit food that Sumo had bought had all become double portions and then had been strengthened. With the help of these things and Sumo's hard work, his cultivation improved by leaps and bounds. The peak of the 4th level of chi refinement. Now, there were 4 rings of light in Sumo's danci. However, the white immortal root didn't change much. On this day, Sumo opened his eyes and patted his storage pouch. 3 pills of the 4th level of chi refinement appeared in his hand. Without hesitation, he swallowed the 3 chi refining 4th realm pills. A cultivator's pills were not to be underestimated. The pills of the 4th level of chi refinement were specially prepared for cultivators of the 4th level of chi refinement. As soon as the pills entered Sumo's mouth, they turned into 3 strong waves of spiritual energy and entered his danci. Whoosh! At that moment, it was as if 3 waterfalls fell into a deep pond, splashing water everywhere. Sumo felt his body shake violently, and his danci turned into waves. The 4th ring of light suddenly lit up, and even ripples appeared on the surface of the 4th ring. At this moment, as long as Sumo used the incantation for the 5th level of chi refinement, he could probably become a cultivator of the 5th level of chi refinement. However, Sumo used the incantation to control his cultivation level at the peak of the 4th level of chi refinement. Sumo understood that the tallest tree in the forest would be destroyed by the wind. That day when Bai Lai punched Shinlang, he had already become the focus of the 5 wheels. He had been staying in his room all this time because he wanted to keep a low profile. In 8 months, he had reached the peak of the 4th level of chi refinement, which was unprecedented. If he advanced to the 5th level of chi refinement, it might bring unnecessary trouble. Because of this, Sumo didn't choose to enter the 5th level of chi refinement right away. He still had 10 pills of the 4th level of chi refinement. At a critical moment, he could eat it all at once to ensure that he could advance to the 5th stage of chi training. At this moment, Sumo took out a flying sword and activated the chi refinement object control art. Buzz buzz, looking at the flying sword again, it suddenly glowed with a layer of blue light, and then directly flew up. The 4th level of the chi cultivation realm, object manipulation realm. There were 9 stages in the chi refinement realm, and there were 2 nodes. One was the 4th stage of chi cultivation, which was commonly referred to as the material manipulation realm. The other was the 7th stage of chi cultivation, commonly referred to as the wind riding realm. Being able to control objects and ride the wind could be considered the 2 hallmarks of a cultivator. It was Sumo's first time using the object manipulation technique, so she wasn't very familiar with it. The flying sword suddenly flew up, but Sumo didn't control it well, and it suddenly fell to the ground. Sumo smiled bitterly, but she was not discouraged. With a thought, the flying sword rose up again, and he practiced it repeatedly. 3 days and 3 nights passed in the blink of an eye. Finally, Sumo's sword light moved up and down the entire cave, flying left and right, as if it was moving at will. At this moment, Sumo's eyes showed real exhaustion, and at the same time, a trace of a smile appeared on his face. Controlling objects could make it easier to kill the enemy, and killing the enemy was the best way to protect oneself. Sumo knew this well, so he had to practice the object manipulation technique well. Then, Sumo took out the broken bamboo pole from his storage bag. Holding the broken bamboo pole, Sumo stood up. At that moment, he actually felt like he had found himself again. A little beggar should be holding a bamboo pole. It was as if what he was holding in his hand was not a broken bamboo pole, but a magic staff that ruled over the world. Sumo knew that the bamboo pole in his hand was definitely not ordinary. As warm as jade, Sumo breathed out a little spiritual energy and felt that the bamboo pole had become one with him. He gently held it, and there was a feeling of blood connection. It was a very special feeling. Whether all these changes happened because of Silent Death Valley, Sumo was not sure. However, he had decided to go to Silent Death Valley again in the future. Where were those skeletons and white bones pointing to? What secrets were there in Silent Death Valley? Actually, these were all Sumo's questions, but he could only suppress them for the time being. Only by doing what was in front of him could he think about the future. Sumo understood. Whoosh! At this moment, Sumo's thoughts moved again, and the bamboo pole flew up like a green dragon. Rays of green light, and the halo was like waves. The bamboo pole danced, and the entire cave was filled with brilliance. Compared to the flying sword, the difference between this bamboo pole and the flying sword was like heaven and earth. They were not on the same level at all. Bang! Boom! At this moment, it was midnight. Sumo directly flew the bamboo pole out of the cave and hit a large rock at the entrance of the mountain. Looking at the large rock, it was directly smashed into pieces by the bamboo pole, and stone chips flew everywhere. Satisfied, Sumo kept the bamboo pole. After resting for a night, he decided to go to Yongjin Peak's scripture-hidden cave tomorrow to choose a cultivation technique for those above the 5th rank of Chi training, and then prepare to carry out the 1,000 Red Flower mission at Punishing Heart Cliff. If he could get the cultivation-breaking pill, he would go into closed-door training and then break through the inner sect in one go. If he could enter the inner sect in a year, Sumo would have created another miracle. With his mindset, Sumo could finally meditate in peace, and it could be considered a good rest. At this moment, outside Sumo's cave, a black shadow gradually disappeared. The black shadow saw Sumo controlling the rock, and according to the black shadow's estimation, that attack had the combat power of at least the 5th rank of Chi training. Sumo, you really are a monster. The black shadow muttered to himself. I guess it's about time for you to carry out the mission. You actually waited for 2 months. Your perseverance is really not bad. Yongjin Peak, Scripture Hidden Cave. Although the Scripture Hidden Cave was located at Yongjin Peak, it was different from other caves. This was because it belonged to the 5 Wheels Ancestral Soul Peak. The entire 5 Wheels only had this one Scripture Hidden Cave. The Chi Training chapter for those below the 5th rank of Chi Training could be obtained at the Yongjin Peak's Mission Pavilion. This was because all the cultivators of the 5 Wheels Basic Cultivation Technique was the Chi Training chapter. However, once you reach the 4th rank of Chi Training, you could choose your own cultivation technique as your direction of cultivation. As long as the disciples of the 5 Wheels were above the 4th rank of Chi Training, they could choose their own cultivation technique, read the books, and receive guidance. The 5 Wheels had existed for over 30,000 years, so the collection of cultivation techniques could be said to be as vast as the ocean. The disciples of the 5 Wheels and 5 Meridians had their own opportunities, so even if they belonged to the same meridian, they would have their own unique cultivation techniques. The Scripture Hidden Cave was a super library, allowing the disciples of the 5 Wheels to take what they wanted. At this moment, Sumo was already standing outside the scripture-hidden cave. Outside the cave, there was no one. After all, many disciples didn't come here every day to choose cultivation techniques. Sumo entered the cave with the help of the sect's Jade Scroll. Previously, he had asked around and found out that the person in charge of the scripture-hidden cave was actually an elder in the intermediate stage of the core formation realm. This was comparable to the head of a meridian. However, he cultivated in the cave all year round and would never show his face unless it was an extremely important matter. Usually, the person in charge was an intermediate stage of the foundation building realm and 2 outer disciples in the 6th rank of Qi training. From this, it could be seen that the scripture hidden cave status was far higher than the mission pavilion and the Jubao pavilion. Outside the scripture hidden cave, there was actually an array. Sumo stepped into the cave without being blocked by the array, which meant that she was a cultivator above the 4th rank of Qi training. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.